Crap. Welcome, everybody. Conspiracy or not, here we come.
It's Sunday. It's 12 o'clock p.m. noontime Eastern Central. It is February 19th, 2017, and look who we have with us. We have Zachary K. Hubbard, and joined as always, Ian and Amy. Hello, everyone. Hello, Zach.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. We are waiting right now for our friend Conscientious Objector to join. I don't know what his problem is. Maybe he's getting the 403 error message. I do not know. He should have been here a little while ago. So he could pop in anytime, but we're going to go ahead and move forward as scheduled. So, hello everyone. Ian, Amy. Hi, guys.
Howdy.
Hey, Aaron.
All right, you guys.
Welcome, Zach. Been a big fan of your videos, a long time, watched you for years. Great work you do.
Thank you.
Wanted to give you that.
Appreciate that.
For sure.
I agree. I've been watching for a number of years now too, and fully enjoy them.
I too have been subbed to you for a long time. I've been watching your videos for quite some time. I don't catch every video, but here we are. So what I would like to do right now is I would like to read a couple of paragraphs that I had jotted down this morning and sort of set the tone for the evening. And here we go. Basically, since I've been awakened to the reality of the corruption of every aspect of our society, I, like many of you guys, have spent tireless hours, years in fact, investigating to the best of my ability and researching as much truth as I can get my head around. Since then, my worldview has changed many, many times. Our opinions are based on our knowledge, and ever since I've started this journey of truth seeking, my opinions have been changed with every new piece of information that I encounter. So much so that I have adopted a new perspective towards my own opinions, namely that I have largely stopped forming opinions. Too many times I've discovered that what I thought was true turned out to be false, and with it, my opinions. So I've learned to hold. So to maintain a true open mind, I've learned to expose myself to as much information as I can on both sides of any situation. I've learned to listen to the opposing views and facts. I've learned to communicate with those who disagree. Today we're going to do exactly that. Zachary Hubbard is without a doubt a controversial presence on the internet. Many people take issue with him and his assertions. Today we intend to show the world that respectful discourse can and should take place between those who hold differing viewpoints. This show is about bringing people together. This show is about sharing information. It's about creating an atmosphere of intelligent debate, expansion of knowledge, and most importantly, a greater understanding of each other and the world at large. And with that, I present Zachary K. Thanks again for being here, buddy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I don't think I'm that controversial.
Well, you certainly are. In fact, I doubt that there are a few people on the internet who have other people making videos about them than you do. Maybe you're not aware.
Well, I'm aware of that, but I think it's not because I'm controversial. I think it's because a lot of people want to discredit me with slanders. like your
Okay.
friend who's not here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
wish
don't
you
know
would-
what's happening, but I gave him the link a little while ago, and go ahead, Ian.
Is he in the chat? Is he?
Oh, you know what? We just got going here. Let me go look at the chat and see if he is in the chat, because he might have trouble with the link. Maybe that's his issue. Give me just a second here.
I'm not seeing him in the chat.
And my computer's running a little bit slow. Hello, everybody. Juxtapose, the Omaha Ben. All right, so we got a bunch of people in the chat already. Michael Resnicki's in here already. A couple of people I've not seen before. Thanks everyone for being here. And I don't see Conchi in here. I sent him a link, and I sent him a message, and I sent him an email. So I know he's waiting. I know he's expecting to be here, and I can't explain why he's not here. So when he shows up, we'll get him in here. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and move forward as scheduled. Zach, let's go ahead and start off with the main reason you're here. Our friend, he's a friend of the show, and he's a friend of ours. He made a video called you Shill of the Year, and I know you took issue with that. So go ahead and tell us how you feel about it.
Yeah, I saw his video, and it reminded me. Before we get to this, how good of friends are you with this man? Do you know him outside of YouTube?
No.
He lives in England, so I've never met him personally, but you know, I've had a rapport with him for probably well over a year, a fairly close rapport, closer than most on YouTube.
Okay, so you think he's a legitimate person? Because I don't know him.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I think he's a legitimate person.
Okay, so I'll just assume he's a legitimate person, taking your word, because I don't know him at all. All I know about him is the video he made about me. And Amy, you know, she's linked me some of your shows. And when I've listened to him on your show, I've thought, just so you know, I hear my feedback coming through somebody's speaker. I don't know if I'm talking too loud, but anyway, I've heard this man speak on your show, and he seems reasonable to me, and I agree with a lot of the things he says. So I thought, you know, he seems like an okay guy, but he made a video about me called Shill of the Year in 2016. And I wish he was here so I could hear his reasoning. I would just like to hear him go first. But when I watched his video, I noticed that he had pretty much followed the lead of the other people who had made videos calling me a shill, using the same clips. And so I didn't know if he was just following the work of others. But I mean, he decided to take time out of his own day to make this video calling me the shill of the year, which a number of people saw. And anyhow, I mean, I just think the video he put together is nonsensical. It's cherry picked. It just focused on the few times I've been wrong. And for anybody to go through all of my work and just pick the few times I've been wrong, I mean, there's only been a few times I've been wrong. I have so many times I've been right. It's not even a comparable amount. So that's just what I wonder. Why would you pick the few times I've been wrong about things and just focus on that and then use that to say that I'm the shill of the year, when you could go through those same videos and you could make a very long compilation about all the things I've been right about? And you know, it's hard for me to debate what he's thinking without him being here and having him express himself. So
Well, all right. Well, I've got a couple of points that I jotted down after reviewing his video again in preparation for the show. I did jot down a few of the points that he did make, and I agree with a couple of them. I have my own issues with Gematria, and we're going to go ahead and hash some of those out. We're going to give you a full chance to explain the merits of Gematria. That's why I titled the show the way I did. We'll be discussing the merits of Gematria. And I'd like to compare that with numerology as well, and maybe make a distinction between the two.
But Aaron, one thing I want to point out about the video as well that he made about Zach, it's that he took a clip from Zach, when he was wearing sunglasses. Okay.
Yeah,
Says,
one of his first.
How come you're wearing sunglasses? I mean, look at is he wearing sunglasses right now? No.
Right, which is just really lame, and a lot of people. See,
I thought it was
comical.
really out of the left field for him to even throw that in there like that, because he like you said, he's a cherry picking one video of you with sunglasses on.
Right, and a lot of people. What's funny is a lot of people have taken that clip who've never shown their face on the screen, and here I am, someone who puts my face on the screen, you know, pretty much in every single video. So,
right.
Has he ever put his face out there?
Not to my knowledge.
So that's exactly what I mean. I mean,
there you go.
Is
he here
exactly
now?
What I mean.
No, he's not here either.
Well, you guys, somebody keep an eye on the chat box, because if he's having issues, he might show up and say something in the chat box. Anyway.
I'm keeping an eye.
So
anyway,
I did review that video that he made, and I jotted down some of the points that he brought up. Some of the points I do agree with, and there are other points in his video that I do not agree with, that I do take issue with. And like you said, you know, going after somebody because they're wearing sunglasses, or, you know, he also mentioned that, you know, the video he chose, you had mentioned that you were writing a book and trying to get it out and get it published. You know, he seemed to, he said in the video, he said, oh, other people make write books too, and then linked you to L. Ron Hubbard. I think that's not necessarily appropriate. However, on that note, I will ask you openly, is there a relationship? You do have the last name. Are you related to L. Ron Hubbard?
No, man, and I've covered that a million times in my videos just because it gets asked so much. And honestly, those types of things are what's wrong with this online truth community. You know, I don't like the term conspiracy theorist.
Me neither.
It's a stereotype and it's meant to discredit people. But a lot of people who are in this online community really are conspiracy theorists. They're not really focused on truth. They're more focused on being paranoid and just connecting dots that aren't there. That's what conspiracy theory is. To say that somebody has the same name Hubbard so that they must be related to L. Ron, I mean, that's just pure idiocy. How many people in this world have the last name Hubbard, you know? Well,
probably a lot. And maybe
there's old Mother Hubbard. Is she related?
Yeah, right.
The old Mother Hubbard too.
I mean, this is how ridiculous it is, though. I mean, it's using straw man logical fallacies and comparing it. You know, it's just, I don't agree with that, right? Trying to connect a name like that.
Right. Stick to the facts.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I throw conspiracy theories all the time on this show, right? I predict things. I predicted that Obama would probably be killed, or, you know, before he'd take over the elections and stuff. I had some conspiracy theories myself, right? That there wouldn't be the next president. I said that for a long time. I believe that, but you know. But when it comes to honestly, using logical fallacies to argue, it's worthless.
Right. Right.
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Aaron.
No, I was going to ask Zach to go ahead. I thought he had something to add there.
Oh, I was just going to say, well, I'm right there with you. That was a mistake I made, and I think the conscientious objector had that in his video. I thought that they were foreshadowing an assassination of Obama as well. A little more than a year ago, though, I put out, well, part of the reason I thought that was because of the number 44 being coded on Obama. Right. All throughout history, every single major assassination you've ever heard of comes back to 44. But more than a year ago, I realized that Obama, even though he's the 44th president, he's only the 43rd person to be president. And I said, okay, here's something interesting. Maybe this means that he's not the true 44. Because I was looking for an excuse for him why there wouldn't be an assassination based on the history of assassinations surrounding the number 44. And I pointed out then that the next president, whoever that would be the 44th person following Obama, and perhaps the narrative was for that person. And then lo and behold, more information came along. Next thing we knew, Donald Trump was running for president, and they began forecasting all of these subliminal articles foreshadowing an assassination of Trump. And those articles, which at first were not clear, they turned into stories of assassination scares. There was one in Nevada in June. There was one on November 5th, also in Nevada, 3 days before the election. Do you guys remember the assassination scare of Trump, Reno, Nevada, November 5th? You remember that?
Yeah.
That was the 411-year anniversary of Guy Fawkes trying to blow up Parliament. 411.
Was that on the day?
Yeah, on the day. The 411-year anniversary. And the reason that's so interesting is because the word assassin in Jewish gematria equals 411. JFK was supposedly shot from 411 Elm Street by Oswald. And a lot of people don't know this, but the Andy Griffith Show on Christmas Day 1961, they had an episode about a bootlegging family getting busted at 411 Elm Street. You know, think about the Kennedys bootlegging family.
Right. Okay.
That episode came out on Christmas Day. The word Christmas in Jewish gematria sums to 411, just like assassin. And then think about that. Donald Trump, assassination scare, November 5th, the 411-year anniversary of the Guy Fawkes Parliament incident. And also that date, November 5th, can be written 11/5. The day JFK died was a date with 115 numerology. The word killing in Jewish gematria is 115. So is Nevada in reverse ordinal gematria. And Trump had 2 assassination scares in Nevada on the campaign trail. And then, of course, you know, the one on November 5th. So that's just some of the examples. There's been a lot of predictive programming for a Trump assassination. And I really do think that's what we're going to end up seeing. That'll end up being a major headline at some point. I don't know if it will be another scare or he gets shot and survives like a Ronald Reagan situation, but I have no doubt that this is what they're trying to clue us into with the ongoing stories by the numbers.
Yeah, it just seems like too much of a coincidence, and there's so many of them, you know, over the years. It's just everything seems to just tie together with the numbers. The concern we have is that, okay, there's so many different types of gematria, right?
That's a major concern for a lot of people, including myself.
There's even like satanic gematria as well. There's this offshoot of, you know, so when it comes to, yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
No, you please.
So when it comes to, you know, what matching the numbers, it seems like it's being cherry picked throughout a bunch of different gematria systems, right?
No, I've never cherry picked. When I started the research, I was aware of 2 methods based on the alphabetic order. And just with those 2 methods that are interrelated, it exposes a lot. And if you read about this study, you know, it said that there's over 200 gematria ciphers with the English language that are in use. And for the first 6 months of this research, I only knew about 2 of those methods. And even with those 2 methods, you can show how all throughout history, you know, events have been coordinated by these numbers. These other methods, I mean, they are all relevant. This is a well-built system, a very special system. And the more aware of it you are, the more you can see. But you don't need to cherry pick methods to get results. You could just use the alphabetic order. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, up to Z is 26. You could just use that method and go through all of history, and you would uncover a lot of history by the numbers. But you're aware of more methods, you see other coding, such as how in Jewish gematria, assassin is 411. That was something the first 6 months of my research I didn't have a clue about. But when you start looking that assassin is 411 and Christmas is 411 in Jewish gematria, and on Christmas Day, there's this episode about the bootlegging family getting busted at 411 Elm Street. And then lo and behold, you know, in the history book, JFK was shot from 411 Elm Street. If you want to look at that and go, well, that's just a coincidence and maybe you cherry picked it, what I would say is that's a sign that your mind doesn't work. the reason I have taught these additional methods is because there's all sorts of proof. I mean, if you have logic and reason to see that these methods are completely relevant.
Okay. Some of the issue that I personally have with the gematria that I see you and others use is that while defining a specific event, that you will use more than one system to define a specific event. And to a lot of us out here who don't fully understand the gematria, it does seem like cherry picking, doesn't it? I mean, it does.
Well, can you think of an example? Like, how did I define it with multiple methods?
Okay, well, when you said the word Christmas in Jewish is 411 in Jewish gematria, okay? Now, what is Christmas in simple reduction gematria?
It's the same as death.
Christmas
is the same as death.
So that's where we kind of like are confused about it, is because you can take something out of all of these different gematria to what, you know, I don't know, Aaron, maybe you can explain it better. I don't know.
You might want to repeat yourself. You were breaking up a little bit there for me, at least.
Just like there's so many different systems of gematria where you can just pick out what matches here and what matches there, right? Like, if it all followed one common system, then it would seem more like it was more designed, right? I don't know what to say about it.
So Zach, what you're saying is that you do not actually do that while defining a single event, that you do not use more than one system? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I started with one system because I only knew one system. And so look at this. Here's what I started with. I started with the alphabetic order. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, up to Z is 26, right? We all understand that. Very clear.
Right.
When I learned about that, I read that there was one other system that was directly related to that. It's the same thing. It's the alphabetic order, but you turn each letter into a single digit. So A is 1, B is 2, C is 3. When you get to J, J is the 10th letter. 10 is 1 plus 0 becomes 1. So J is 1. When you get to Z, it's the 26th letter. 2 plus 6 is 8. So when I began, that was my tool set. I knew about these two forms of gematria. I understood that they were interrelated. And so that's what I began with. I began all my decoding with that. And, you know, the first time I decoded the JFK and Bobby Kennedy assassinations, that was some of my earliest research, looking at those two deaths, the deaths of the brothers, the president and the man running for president. And so if you go back and watch my oldest JFK video, this is all I teach people. I show how in the reduction method, the name Kennedy equals 33. And here's JFK, who was killed on 11/22 in the middle of Dealey Plaza, named after a 33rd degree Freemason, right? So dead on 11/22, Kennedy's 33. Massachusetts is one of 3 states that sums to 33 where the Kennedys are from.
Wait, Kennedy was 33 years old?
No. The name Kennedy equals 33.
Oh, okay, sorry.
He died on 11/22 in the middle of Dealey Plaza, named after a 33rd degree Freemason. I'm glad you did that, though, because it reminds me that maybe I talk too fast so people don't hear me.
You do, and that's an issue I did want to bring up, but go ahead.
But 11 plus 22 is 33 as well, right?
Right. So when I started this research, I knew that if you wrote out 33 with the reduction method, it summed to 66. And Robert Kennedy died on June 6th. June 6th, right? 6/6. The name Sirhan, his assassin, equals 33. Sirhan equals 33. You put it together twice, Sirhan, it equals 66. You know what else equals 66? Robert Kennedy. Robert's 33, Kennedy's 33. So for a long time, I just taught those things because it was all I knew. I knew that Robert and Kennedy were both 33, like added together 66, just like Sirhan. I said, how interesting is that Robert Kennedy died on 6/6 and his brother died on 11/22, and they're both Kennedys. We understand that this number 33 is significant to Freemasonry. Dealey Plaza is in the middle of, Dallas, named after a 33rd degree Freemason. If you don't know, the Zapruder film is also made by a 33rd degree Freemason. Anyway, to me, that's just where I began. Those were how simple my earliest videos were. And I said, do you think that that's coincidence? Then as I did more research, I learned things such as JFK died on the first day of Sagittarius. And I noticed that using the alphabetic order, Sagittarius summed to 144. If you look at the time Bobby Kennedy died, he died at 1:44 in the morning, reportedly on June 6th. You know that we were just talking about the Christmas episode with, the bootlegging family on the Andy Griffith show. That episode came out 144 days after Obama was born. Obama was born August 4th, 1961. And when you write out 44 as a word, it sums to 144. Obama, the 44th president. A lot of people don't know this about JFK. JFK was the 35th president, but the 44th term president. 44, that number connected to killing all throughout history. The name Abraham using the alphabetic order is 44. So anyway, when I began this study, I only knew about the reduction in the ordinal, and I just saw how all throughout history, just using these methods, you could line up all the assassinations by the numbers, and they all came back to the same numbers. And I only knew about those two methods. So that's all I taught about when I began. You can go back and watch my oldest videos. Then, just becoming more aware, I don't even know if it was me who saw it first or if it was somebody who caught it using one of the Gematria calculators, but they said, hey, Zach, did you know that the word assassin equals 411 and JFK was killed from 411 Elm Street? I don't know if somebody told me that once upon a time or if I discovered it. I can't remember because I just been doing this work every day and a lot of it's a blur. But, once upon a time, I looked at that and I said, wow, Jewish Gematria. Is this a coincidence? Well, then you notice further things. Okay, Christmas is 411. You do more research. You look at the death of Yitzhak Rabin and so many other people, and you see these same numbers are involved in those deaths and killings. And then that's when you realize, okay, this is not a coincidence. This is part of the code. This is additional information. So that's how I have come to teach more than what I just began with. Observation, weighing the evidence, looking at the facts, and then it becomes clear, okay, these other methods are relevant. I don't feel like I've ever cherry-picked. I feel that I've always documented why these other methods are relevant, how they're all interrelated. I mean, they're all based off the English alphabet. So.
All right, well, back to my original question. Do you, while you're explaining one specific event, do you use multiple systems to define that event?
Sure, if it's relevant. I mean, if I was doing a presentation on John F. Kennedy, I would show you all the different layers. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it's relevant, I'll show it. But if you look at my work and you look at what 90% of it is, it's those two methods that I began with. Almost everything comes back to those two methods.
All right, fair enough. But can you see how some of us out here on the other side who are not as familiar with this system of gematria that you're as familiar with, can you not see how some of us would view that as cherry picking though, right? I mean, if you're going to say, look, this means this in Jewish gematria and this means this in Jewish gematria, and oh, by the way, this, if you write it out, means this in ordinal gematria, it seems like, look, there's so many possibilities that you could very easily be cherry picking.
Well, if somebody tuned into one of my videos and had never seen any video, hadn't seen the progress from the beginning, because I mean, that's what it is for me. It's like, for me, it's been a progression. I know where I started and how we got to this point. And anybody could take the time to go back and watch the videos and see the difference from the beginning up to now. I mean, at the beginning, I only taught about those two methods. Again, it was all I knew about. So if you just came to my work and you watch now and you go, wait a minute, he talked about reduction gematria and ordinal gematria, and he said that there was Jewish gematria. I could see how somebody might go, wait a minute, that's just all these methods, it seems like he's just, I could see how somebody came to that. And that's also why I've been saying for over a year, I need to get the book out so people can have something in their hands and go through it. I think if you go through things in chronological order and logical order, I think it will help a lot of people see the relevance of the systems and how it is a purposefully built system that has been utilized in just the way I'm showing for our entire history.
All right, well, I personally believe that numerology is a real thing. It relates to astrology and the old pagan systems, and there is, without a doubt, some numerology built into these events that are happening. I just have a really, really hard time getting my head around the fact that a human being, or even a think tank, a group of people, are sitting around figuring out whose name means what according to this gematria, that gematria, and coding all these remarkable details. And they are remarkable. They're not, I mean, the coincidences are off the scale to the point where you have to say this is probably not coincidence. And there's somewhere else I want to go with this that has to do with human consciousness in relation to the interview that we had with Dr. Joseph Farrell a couple of weeks ago, where he talked about data correlation experiments with CERN and how it affects human consciousness and how that very well might be responsible for. In fact, we even brought up gematria to Farrell, and that's how we got on the subject. But he suggested that somewhere in human consciousness or subconscious, you know, the collective conscious basically might be what's responsible for this extraordinary coding that you yourself are finding out there. What do you think about that? I mean, do you think it's a person, you know, one of those savants, a really smart person, or a group of think tank people that are sitting around thinking, okay, we're going to have a false flag, it's going to be a staged event, we need this guy, we need his name to equate to this number, and blah blah blah, and we're going to produce the video, and we're going to air the show at 3:11, and I mean, do you think there's people behind it purposefully?
Absolutely. That's exactly what you just said. Is 100% what they're doing. That's absolutely what they're doing.
I think there's like it would have to be like a high priests or something, or a supercomputer doing this.
I have no doubt that they're using computers to help them, but yeah, what you just said was September 11th. I mean, let's do September 11th. Why did that happen on 9/11? I was 18 years old then. It couldn't be any more obvious to me the day it happened that we were being lied to, and they chose 9/11 for a very obvious reason.
All right,
National emergency on 9/11.
The late Bill Cooper is known to have predicted 9/11, even stating Osama bin Laden by name. Now, he wasn't using gematria, and he got it right. He didn't necessarily say exactly when, but you know, he said we're going to have a major attack. It's going to entail this, this, and this, and it's probably going to be this guy's name all over it. And he was dead on.
Sure, and what I don't know about Bill Cooper is if he really is an agent or not. I suspect based on his recent behavior he is, because what he's doing these days is no good. He's promoting fear and saying he can't speak out because his life's in danger, and so I don't know who Bill Cooper really is. He's done some interesting work, but let's look at 911 by the numbers. 1968, 33 years before 2001.
Right.
These things happened. 911 was made the national emergency dialing code.
Let me jump in, Zach. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is where I take issue between gematria and numerology. Okay, in gematria, you're breaking down names and words and assigning numeric value to letters, which is gematria. But in the case of what you just said, 9/11 having been exactly 33 years to the day from when it was, you know, ground broke to the time it collapsed, that's not gematria, that's numerology.
But it's all interrelated. Numerology and gematria are based on the same thing.
Yeah, can I add something here?
Please.
A couple of things. First of all, as far as who is doing the coding of all these events and the scripting, I strongly suspect that we are not dealing with humans. That's just where I place highest probabilities. I don't know for sure one way or the other. So if it's not humans, it could very easily be somebody that has access to some phenomenal technology that could make coding these things, a snap. And there was another thing that I was going to add, but I'm sorry, I failed to keep it in mind. And if I think of it, I'll bring it up later.
All right, Amy, I appreciate that insight. And I'm open to all things. I don't claim to know anything for certain. I'm just showing what's verifiable and what everyone else can.
Right. Well,
can
actually,
do.
I just thought of what it was. Since they're into numerology, we know this. We know they use it. It is, in their opinion and possibly other people's opinions and possibly for real, conceivable that by coding the numbers into the names, they give power to whatever it is that they're doing.
It's ritualistic, yes.
Exactly.
See,
Yes.
that's where human consciousness comes into play, because when it's well known that our consciousness has a direct effect on the material world. In fact, lots of experiments have been done to show this as definitive. Now, when you have multiple people, and the more you get, the better it is, the stronger the effect. When you have multiple people focusing on one particular thing, then you have a collective consciousness that has a stronger effect on that situation.
Right. I agree.
It's almost like the Super Bowl, right? Or the Olympics, right? The closing and the opening ceremonies of these events, when you have so millions and millions of people, hundreds of millions in some cases, and everybody's focused on these rituals that they perform, then you have all these millions and millions of consciousnesses focused on that, which helps bring it to power. That's what they call lesser magic.
Absolutely. But you're also programming all those minds at once.
Right. You guys want to hear my theory about this? I think it's a supercomputer that's coming up with all these events and occurrences, and whatever comes out a match, it happens. Whatever doesn't come out a match is just missed.
Yeah, Ian, you're onto something. That's right.
Let's talk about 9/11 real quick, though, because I think it's a very concrete example of the relevance of what I'm showing.
Okay.
So 1968, the same year 911 was made the national emergency dialing code, the same year World Trade Center construction began in New York, the same year that George W. Bush graduated from Yale and Skull and Bones, also the same year that Stanley Kubrick's Space Odyssey 2001 came out. 1968 is 33 years before 2001. In the language of Gematria, using where we reduce each letter to a single digit, false flag sums to 33. If you write out 33 as a word, it sums to, well, this is using the alphabetic order. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3. If you write out 33,
keep that clarified while you go there, please.
Right. I want people to know what methods. So the first two methods that I began with, this is where my original 9/11 research was. If you write out 33 as a word, it sums to 156. And the number 911 is the 156th prime number. So 33 years before 2001, we get 911, we get the World Trade Center construction, we get George W. Bush out of college, we get Space Odyssey, 2001. If you write out Space Odyssey using the alphabetic order, it sums to 156, just like 33. And what's really interesting is George W. Bush's birthday is July 6th. From July 6th to September 11th is also 68 days. 68, the year Bobby Kennedy was assassinated, Martin Luther King. Yep. So anyway, 33 years, false flag 33. Something that I learned a year after I presented this is that in Jewish gematria, false flag equals 156. So that's one of those things where I said, aha, look at that. There's another thing with Jewish gematria tying right in. But anyhow, 911 is the 156th prime number. 33 connects to 156. The World Trade Centers were 110 stories tall. The name Osama bin Laden equals 110 using the alphabetic order. And also using the alphabetic order, so does the name Rockefeller. Rockefeller equals 110. It was David Rockefeller who proposed the World Trade Centers, March 11th, 1961.
Right.
It was his family member, the 49th governor of New York, Nelson Rockefeller, who approved the project. What's interesting is Twin Towers in reduction sums to 49, the alphabetic order with each letter compressed. Twin Towers is 49. 49th governor approved them. Just yesterday was the 49th day of 2017, and reportedly the mastermind of the 93 World Trade Center bombing died in prison. There was an article in 2006 about him that when he dies, there'll be a revenge attack in the United States. So keep that in mind. But anyhow, We're talking about 33, 156, false flags, 68 to 2001. The construction firm that built the World Trade Centers, their name is Magnuson Klemenkic Associates, which also happens to sum to 156. So, you know, just looking at that, doesn't that seem just on the surface beyond coincidence?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I'll admit it absolutely does.
So that's where I began. That's the ground foundation of all that's coded into September 11th with just those two basic methods. And then if you also take the Jewish Gematria piece, you can go, oh, false flag also sums to 156 in that method.
And the floors that were there in the towers as well, they're all numerologically aligned.
Right.
Yeah, also
one of the things
the number of people that died that day, what was it? 3,300 something?
I thought it was 29.
2977, I think. But one of the things that I think is interesting about the 9/11 event is the fact that if you take the flight numbers that hit the two towers, add them together and divide by 2, it equals 93, the number for Saturn.
And we also have Flight 93.
And
yes,
that's the distance from here to the sun, apparently.
Basically, 3 93s going.
I would also like to point out, since Zach brought up David Rockefeller, that he was on the cover of Newsweek magazine and regarding the construction of the trade towers, and on his watch, his wristwatch was 9/11.
And for anyone who wants to look at that magazine cover and take the date numerology, the date numerology of that cover is 93. I already know exactly what you're talking about because it's all part of my research. Look at this. So here's more. If you write out September 11th as words and you write out World Trade Center, in reduction, they both sum to 77. World Trade Center using the reduction where you make each letter a single digit, and September 11th, each letter a single digit, they both sum to 77. And on September 11th, we were told that Flight 77 flew into the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., which is on the 77th meridian. And if you look at the height of the Pentagon, it's built exactly 77 feet tall. And adding insult to injury, you can get the 9/11 Commission report. It says what time Flight 77 supposedly took off and what time it supposedly collided with the Pentagon. If you look at that time, it's exactly 77 minutes. Flight 77 reportedly hit the Pentagon 77 minutes after taking off on the 77th meridian. And again, you add the Gematria touch, September 11th, 77, World Trade Center 77. And now for that other piece, the piece that some people say, okay, well now here's where you're reaching for too many things. This is how I figured out that the other methods are relevant. In Jewish Gematria, Tisha B'Av equals 911. And what Tisha B'Av is the Jewish Remembrance Day for the destruction of the two temples. The destruction of the two temples is Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av in Jewish Gematria is 911. And our own media, 60 Minutes had a special not long after September 11th about the Israeli men arrested in New Jersey who were dancing and filming and said that they were there to document the attacks. Our own media put out that information that Israelis were in the country on September 11th, who were sent there to document, and they were sent back. Our own news told us that. Our own news told us that all the hijackers were from Saudi Arabia. You know, these are our allies in the region. And at the same time, they told you they had to go to war with these countries that weren't even involved. So this is what I have been recognizing over all of this time, you know, just putting out the obvious in front of our face, noticing, you know, suspicious numbers. After several years of looking at this and trying to connect the dots, I found the Gematria. You know, the most basic forms when I began to decode, a lot became very clear. And just over time, I've learned about more and more methods, and it's become undeniable that those methods are very important. In fact, when I began this research, at first I wouldn't only talk about the two methods because I was worried that if I taught about other things, people would say just what you're saying, that you're cherry picking and you're using these other methods. But it's just undeniable. When you look at what the other methods show within very relevant things, you go, okay, this is definitely part of the equation. This is knowledge people need to know. And when I make my videos, you know, I always try to show people why it is just what I'm saying right now. So
okay, we've got a couple of questions in the chat, and before we get too far off, let me just throw a couple of these at you. I'm not sure if Bella is still listening. Haven't seen her in the chat box, but she asked, how did you learn of all the Gematria codes? And also Jordan Rains has asked, he says he doesn't doubt the Gematria is real, but how is it helping us in our daily lives? That's a question I would like to have asked as well. So how did you learn about all the codes? And really, Zach, how is it helping us? Because, I mean, and on that note, what predictions have you had with Gematria that are really significant? And when I say significant, I mean beyond predicting the Patriots game. I mean, have you used Gematria to predict an event, a false flag or a staged event or anything like that? Have you had any revelations in Gematria that have actually predicted one of these events that we're all concerned about? And like Jordan Rains is asking, how is it helping us in our daily lives? And before you answer, I want to go back to what Conchi said in his video, and Conchi is our friendly name because it's Conscientious Objector. We just shorten it. He does say that in his video that most of what you do is in hindsight. So according, you know, Jordan Rains is asking, how is it helping in our daily lives?
yeah, so the first video I ever made, I offered, or actually I take it back, it wasn't the first video I ever made, it was the second video. The second video I ever made was a prediction, and I got a bunch of subscribers right off the bat. The second video I ever made was about the Michael Brown shooting. And what I explained in that video was that in all of these false flags where the police are involved and it's meant to provoke an element of the society or pit people against each other, I said they'll routinely code 33 into the names of the officers who are responsible for the needless killing or whatever. And if you go back to the Michael Brown shooting, they didn't put out the name of the officer, I forget now, for at least a week until after the shooting. But I told everybody, I said, when the officer's name comes out, the officer's name will sum to 33 in this reduction method. And sure enough, his name came out. It was Darren Wilson, summing to 33. And, you know, that was the very beginning. That was the very basics. And how many times has that same story happened since? It's happened hundreds of times since. So I explained something from the beginning about how they code propaganda, why they use these certain numbers. And, you know, so in a way, I came out with a prediction. I said, this is what your media does. This is what you're going to continue to see with this knowledge. And my point has been proven 1,000 times over since. And yes, I have so many correct predictions that I could hardly even remember any of them. But one of the most memorable in recent time is last February, after Vanity died before the Grammys. I put out a video and I said, here's why Vanity is being reported dead today. I said, look at how her numbers compare with Prince, you know, her past boyfriend. It probably won't be long until we're reading about the death of Prince. And I talked specifically about the number 67 with the two of them. Lo and behold, Prince ended up dying 67 days from Vanity, and he died on April 21st. 4/21 in 1984, his song Purple, or on the album Purple Rain, he has the song I Would Die For You, and he spells it with the number 4, the letter U. Used the 21st letter for you, 4/21, dead on 4/21. 33 years after recording that song. It was recorded in 83. So, you know, Prince ended up dying by the exact numbers I talked about. If you go back and watch that video, I show English reduction, English ordinal, and I also talk about Jewish Gematria, how the word death equals 118 in Jewish Gematria. Prince's full name equals 118. The word elevator has Gematria of 118, dead in an elevator. So anyway, that happened when Prince died. I showed how the day of his death, what was significant about that, and I showed how it would be connected to a number of other things, including the professional sports championships to come, plus other narratives that would unfold throughout the year. And it was game 1 of the NBA finals where they released the cause of death for Prince, which was by the numbers. And that cause of death was directly related to the upcoming NFL season. And if you missed my work, I mean, I showed all year how his death was used as a riddle in sports games, the election of Donald Trump, and so much more. And I mean, it's a lot to explain, but that's one of the more recent predictions that's still part of an ongoing narrative. And to ask how Gematria can benefit any of us, I mean, I don't even, it's that Jordan Rains who asked that question. I'm embarrassed for him to even have to ask that, because I know that he's followed my work from the beginning. And, you know, lately he's been making videos about me because he's a flat earther and he's real invested in the flat earth, which is a psyop. But he should know how Gematria benefits a person. He's been around this whole time to witness all of my correct predictions. And what this knowledge gives you is clarity on why things are being done and who is responsible. You know, Gematria is a Jewish practice, and it's no secret that Jewish Zionists control the media, controlled world banking, have major influence over our governments. So what Gematria does is it gives you a way to see through the lies, show you who is responsible, what's being plotted, what it's all connected to. Plus, Jordan should know this. He's been here for 3 years. I have learned is there is a reason these people are so about this language, why they spend so much time in it. There is something larger than just coding propaganda in the news. It has become clear to me that, you know, no matter what your spirituality is, whether you believe in God, like a universal matrix, whatever your belief system is, it seems very clear that these numbers also are created organically within the world we live. And when we are aware of this language of numerology, Gematria, just by being aware, you know, we can observe things in our own life that perhaps give us greater insight into our behavior, the choices we're making, what's going on. It's like when you read about astrology, when you read about numerology in your personal life, there's a lot of information on how these numbers have a real impact on us. And just in the years that I've been aware of this, I've made so many mind-blowing observations about my own life that just seem so far beyond coincidence. It's just, you know.
Well,
Now,
speak,
Zach,
all right. No, go ahead, Ian.
all of this adding up the numbers and everything, it's all telling us a story, right? It's all explaining who did it on what day and why. Do you agree with that?
Sure, it's like Clue.
It's like a code, right? It's like a universal language that we can't read unless we actually look into it and study it. But the people that are in the secret societies, they learn this code as a part of their language system, right? That they can use amongst each other, right?
Right.
Just like the crop circles as well. It's like a code, right? It's telling you something, and it's sending a message throughout the world to all of the secret societies in the same club, right, so to speak, who are all in the New World Order agenda all together, right?
Right.
And they all have their underlying motives that they do their things, right? So do you think that it's a bunch of different factions within the secret societies that are doing their own events and coding their own events and putting their own little stamp on each of those?
Absolutely. Like there's a stamp for the Society of Jesus, the Jesuit orders, the Masons within the
Right.
Catholic Church, and it's a signature that shows up a lot. What I was showing about Donald Trump's convention in Cleveland, the date it began, July 18th. So two really things interesting. July 18th in most parts of the world is written 18/7. And from that day, July 18th, to what was going to be Inauguration Day, January 20th, 2017, that was a span of 187 days. And at the time, what I knew about 187 in regards to the White House and the history of presidents, I only knew two things then. That was the first recognized president using the alphabetic order. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, up to Z is 26. George Washington in Gematria sums to 187. George Washington in English reduction equals 88, just like how Trump does using the alphabetic order. But 187, I knew that that connected to George Washington. I also knew that the last Republican president, George W. Bush, was born on July 6th, the 187th day of the year. So I thought that was interesting, and I kept pointing that out to the people who followed my work. I said, if Trump ends up in the White House, remember this about 187 and his convention beginning in Cleveland. Well, in the past week, I just came across a Gematria method that is very relevant and that I have completely neglected this entire time. And this is what it is. It's called reverse Gematria. It's putting the alphabetic order in reverse. So Z is 1 and A is 26. And what's really interesting, when you put Washington, D.C. in as a word in reverse Gematria, Washington, D.C. sums to 187. So how fitting. You know, Trump, who was selected to be the next president, our elections are a complete farce. And I mean, that's just another thing about Gematria. You can just go back and see how these people are stage puppets going out, making headlines day by the numbers. That's why, you know, brother, honestly, as you asking me, you said that you followed my work. I feel that anyone who has to ask me what the relevance of my work is and what the benefit is, I mean, it kind of just dumbfounds me. I don't know who else is putting out knowledge that shows definitively how propaganda-based and what a puppet show our media is. But anyway, 187 days later, Trump becomes the president in Washington, D.C. Now we know that Washington, D.C. equals 187. Also interesting in this reverse Gematria, Society of Jesus equals 187. Donald Trump began his Jesuit training. The Jesuits are the Society of Jesus. In 1964 at Fordham University. We have a Jesuit president. We have a Jesuit pope. Does anyone remember when Pope Francis came to the United States in September of 2015? He left the country on September 27th, which is the Jesuit order's birthday. You might recall that while he was here, he met with Jeb Bush on September 23rd. He met with John Boehner. He met with Barack Obama. After his visit, Jeb Bush dropped out of the presidential race. And you might recall that John Boehner said that after talking to the Pope, he felt that he no longer was fit to be the leader of Congress. So he resigned from that position, and then it became Matt Ryan, who's a Jesuit himself. But anyhow, just looking at all of this now, you know, you just look at the order of what's been going on in this nation. You know? We get this Jesuit Pope visiting. Next thing you know, there's a shakeup in Congress. You got Jeb Bush, one of the front runners in the Republican Party, dropping out of the race. Lo and behold, all this time later, you have a Jesuit in the White House. And then you look at this Gematria code and you go, I see what it was all about now. So, you know, this Gematria language, it reveals how the New World Order, which is a Masonic world order, is operating. Donald Trump at that GOP convention came out to Queen, we are the champions. I got to imagine that the majority of people who saw that thought, that's kind of funny. What presidential candidate comes out to Queen, we are the champions, something you expect at a sports game? Well, right away, I just go, I bet you anything. Because right when I witnessed that, I said, I bet you anything today is 88 days from the Queen's birthday. I bet you anything. And then I go to the calculator. Everybody can verify this right now. Type in April 21st. That's the Queen's birthday, the day Prince died. She turned 90 that day. From the Queen's birthday to Trump coming out to Queen at the GOP convention was 88 days. Trump, using the alphabetic order, is 88. So was Elizabeth. So was the color purple, the color of royalty. Hey, remember on September 11th, they had the tribute in light, 88 purple beams in the air. Purple 88, 88 beams chosen. Anyway. 88 days later, coming out to Queen, we are the champions. This is just what's going on. So, I mean, you want to know why Gematria is relevant? It's because it shows you why the puppet show is going on the way it's going on. This is how this gang operates.
So what predictions are you working on right now? What do you see at this point? And by the way, also I want to ask you, is there a system out of all these Gematria systems, which system do you find to be most relevant or most revealing? And what kind of predictions are you working on right now?
So for the same two I began with, you use those two, the alphabetic order, A to Z, 1 to 26, and also the interrelated method where you just turn each letter to a single digit. I still think those are the two most relevant. However, if you can go to this website, gematrinator.com, that's GEMATRINATOR.com. If you go to that website, there is a very new Gematria calculator built by somebody who follows my work. On the left side of the screen, when you get to the calculator, there's check boxes for methods. And some of these methods that are on this calculator are methods I've never even worked with, so I don't have any familiarity. But what I would recommend to anyone to do is come to this calculator and leave 4 boxes checked. One that says reduced, one that says reverse reduced, one that says ordinal, and one that says reverse ordinal. And if you have any familiarity with my work and the numbers we've been talking about, just type in, just do a search. Just get on a topic and think of related words and search for them and look at the synchronicities between these Gematria methods, which are based on the alphabetic order forwards and back. I've been blowing my mind this week with the reverse ordinal Gematria. It's just shed so much light on so many things that I've already been looking at. Are you guys familiar with my work on the coding of 42 and 59 on Black people throughout history?
That's interesting you brought that up, because I jotted down another question relating to the number 42, because that seems to be an extraordinarily important number. I don't know if you probably are familiar with the YouTube channel Changing Reason. He's got a whole video where he shows roughly 25 or more examples of recent news articles of these supposed events and shootings where the number 42, death is usually involved. The officer was 42, or there were 42 shots fired, or the bus crashed and 42 people on board. So the 42 number is a really important number as far as I know. And again, that goes back to, in my mind, that goes back to numerology and not so much Gematria.
Well, numerology 42 doesn't even matter. 42 doesn't matter in numerology, so it couldn't go back to numerology because 42 is just 6. So that doesn't have anything to do with numerology. What you just said is completely false. So 42 could only be relevant in Gematria.
No, not necessarily, because I mean, look, I mean, Gematria, you're free to make the distinction.
You know what numerology is?
Now, I was just going to ask you to go ahead and make the distinction for us. You distinguish for us. What is your distinguishing factor between numerology and Gematria? You go ahead and explain that for us.
Only 11 numbers matter. In numerology, it's just 1 through 9, 11, and 22. That's it. There's no 42 in numerology. 42 is 6. 4 plus 2 is 6. So 42 couldn't possibly be relevant in numerology. It becomes relevant in Gematria. The word Freemasons 42, Zionism 42, history.
Okay, so that's your distinction. Your distinction for numerology is it goes from 1 to 11, and that's it. And numerology doesn't care about anything else beyond that.
Numerology doesn't go 1 to 11.
I'm sorry, what was it you just said?
Numerology is only focused on the single digits, 1 through 9, with the exceptions 11 and 22, because that's the master number and the master builder number.
Well, I don't know if you can explain this, but how is it that numerology would go from 1 to 9 and then jump to 11 and 22 without anything in between? Why would numerology not care about any other numbers?
So, brother, I'm not telling you something that's not true. I'm telling you what numerology really is.
No, I'm just trying to get you to help us understand from your perspective.
Okay, so yeah, I don't mean to be an ass. Numerology is really 1 through 9 and 11 and 22. And the reason 11 and 22 are special is because it's the master number and the master builder number. And so what that means is if you have a number, say 1,087, in numerology, it's not 1,087. It's 1 plus 0 plus 8 plus 7, which breaks down to 16. And then 1 plus 6 is 7. So 1,087 in numerology is 7.
Okay.
However, if you have a number that breaks down to 11 or 22, you stay on those. You say, okay, that's 11, that's 22.
Why
And
not
the reason
33
why-
then?
Huh?
I mean, why not 33 then? I mean, that's certainly an important number, right?
Stay on 33, but if you read true numerology, it's only 11 and 22. Some numerologists, they call them like the New Age numerologists, also consider 33 one of the master numbers. But traditionally, it's 11 and 22.
I might suggest that perhaps the reason number 33 isn't in there is because it's sort of the hidden number by adding 11 and 22. So
Sure.
it's a hidden thing as opposed to an overt thing.
Sure. 33 is considered the master teacher number to some numerologists. And in Gematria, the word teacher with the reduction method, teacher equals 33. So some numerologists do say 33 is a master number. They call it the master teacher number. So you could say also, if you broke down your digit, you could just stop at 33. Some numerologists would tell you that's not pure though. But the reason 11 and 22 are special is because 1 is the most powerful digit in numerology. You read a numerology book, the longest paragraphs are going to be about 1 because of all that 1 represents. 1 is the only number that can be divided into any number. That's not true of anything else. So it's special, it's unique, it's the most relevant. 2 is said to be the next most important number in numerology. So think about how 11 is 2 1s, which also 1 plus 1 would break down to 2. And then 22 is 2 2s. So 1 and 2 are the most important of the single digits. And then the next most important is 9. But anyway, 22 is the master builder, building, construction. In numerology, 4 represents foundation. 22, if you broke it down, would be 2 plus 2 equals 4. So 22 has the quality of 4. Plus it has 2, which in numerology represents coming together, like building, constructing something. Also, 2 can symbolize taking apart, dividing. That's why Freemasonry, the 2 pillars are so important, the 2 towers, the destruction of the 2 temples. So this is the distinction between numerology and Gematria. They're both studies of numbers and the meaning of number, the relevance of numbers. They're interrelated. That's why if you look at my videos, there's so many people who will come along who are numerologists, and they'll write a comment like, your whole video's on 42, idiot, and 42 is just 6. So, you know.
Okay, well, I wasn't aware. I mean, I don't study numerology. I don't study Gematria, so that's why we're having you on to get you. I mean, to get our questions answered. So,
right, and I wasn't calling you an idiot. I was saying, like, I get comments that are left for me like that all the time, and I'm saying, yeah, I know that 42 is 6, but I'm teaching you about Gematria, which is an interrelated study and shows the greater meaning behind these double-digit numbers before you break them down.
You know, I mean, look, if we on myself and our other panel members, Ian and Amy, if we were, you know, heavily into all this stuff like you are, then, you know, these questions wouldn't even come up. That's why you're here. So, real quick, I want to go back to Conscientious Objector's video because there were a couple of other points that we should probably cover, even though he's not here. Oh, look, there he is.
Yay.
Dominic, hello.
Hi, guys.
Hey,
Okay.
glad to see you.
Where you been, pal?
Had to walk the dog. Sorry.
Had to walk the dog. Okay, listen. I want to throw this question at Zach real quick, and then we can go back to what we were about to discuss, which was basically I was trying to bring the conversation back around to your video. Now that you're here, I don't have to do that. You can do that. You guys can talk about that. We have. I'm sure you're aware, Zach. On YouTube, there's the journalist who lives down. I don't know where it is. It's Philippines or somewhere. I don't know. 108 Morris 108. Just give me your Gematria opinion of that title of that. Just off the top of your head, I'm just spitballing here. What do you think of that as an avatar name? 108 Morris 108. You're the expert.
And who is this person again?
Oh, you're not familiar with 108 Morris? He's a journalist, and he actually lives out of the country. He lives. Does anybody know specifically, by the way?
Philippines, I
He's
think.
in South. I thought it was South Africa.
No, I think he might be in the Philippines. It's like an Asian, somewhere in an Asian country.
Somewhere where they have tuk-tuks.
So his name is 108 Morris 108.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what's interesting about that. This will connect some dots we already talked about. Using the alphabetic order, A is 1 up to Z is 26, the word geometry equals 108. And in numerology, that would be 1 plus 0 plus 8 comes back to 9. 9's the glue in numerology, which we didn't get to. But anyway, we were just talking about reverse ordinal gematria, where A is 1, or excuse me, where Z is 1 and A is 26. In reverse ordinal gematria, geometry is also 108. It's the same forwards as it is backwards, and there's not many words that are that way. We were talking about the Andy Griffith Show foreshadowing the death of JFK from 411 Elm Street. The Andy Griffith Show, using the English reduction method, where we make each letter a single digit, the Andy Griffith Show is 108. And Dealey Plaza, where JFK died using the alphabetic order, is also 108. And there's a whole lot more to this, but understand, gematria is geometry within the English language. And now you're talking about this man, 108, Morris 108. I have a feeling that guy knows a thing or two about gematria.
So according to the numbers that you were just throwing around there, I mean, what conclusion can I draw from what you just said? I mean, is this somebody to trust? Is this somebody likely not to trust? What do you think? I mean,
I wouldn't ever dismiss somebody because of the gematria of their name. I see that's what I don't like. A lot of people have taken, made videos about me and saying, "Oh, Zachary K. Hubbard sums to the same thing as Skull and Bones." But to me, it's like, well, who cares? Did I go to Yale? Was I in Skull and Bones? I mean, that doesn't matter. I went to Arizona State University. I'm a public school kid, come from nothing. I had no connection to Yale or the Ivy League.
All right, let me jump in. On that note, since your name equals Skull and Bones, like we were saying earlier before Conchi or our friend Dom joined in, that, I was asking, do you think that there's actually a person or a think tank, a group of people who are really sitting down, working out all these numbers for each event and planning everything according to names and whatnot? I mean, what a coincidence. Zach Hubbard equals Skull and Bones. I mean, what can we say about you? And I'm not dogging you. I'm just saying, wow, there's one of those coincidences that you tend to bring up all the time.
Well, what I'm showing is how predictive programming is being encoded by the numbers and foreshadowing real events to come. I mean, do you think it's the same for what, I mean, I've shown you a lot about that Andy Griffith Christmas Day episode and the 411 Elm Street and the bootlegging family getting busted. Does that seem like the same kind of connection, that episode to what happened in Dealey Plaza on November 22nd? As what I just said, I mean, that Zachary K. Hubbard equals Skull and Bones, does those seem like equal connections?
Well, it's like, again, it reminds me of the question that Jordan Raines brought up. How does that help us in our daily lives? And the question I asked you 5 seconds ago about how is it, I mean, what conclusions, when I asked you about Morris 108, what conclusions might we draw if we work out gematria and it turns out that this guy equals this or this guy equals that? He's 33, you're Skull and Bones. I mean, how do we work out conclusions besides noticing the coincidences? What sort of conclusions can we work out through this method? I mean, yeah, ultimate conclusions. It's like Jordan was asking, how does that really help us in our daily lives?
Well, by understanding that, so people already understood that predictive programming is a real thing. September 11th was foreshadowed in a number of ways, correct?
Yeah, sure.
So this gematria knowledge, it gives further insight into how the predictive programming is created, why certain numbers are put before people's eyes, why the dates they're released on, how those link up with when the actual event happened. So the more you understand, the more you can see the structure they work by, and you can begin to make, estimations for when the next false flag might happen. A lot of people right now are putting out videos that they think something big is going to go down on March 11th.
Yeah.
And
in Seattle.
Some people are saying Seattle.
Oh,
I've seen some of the videos out there. I think it's interesting.
Chicago
It's
too.
going to be Seattle, but
That's Spudgy Pan. That all comes from Spudgy Pan.
Right.
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
That all comes from Spudgy Pan, the channel with the
Hey, Dom,
Seattle
can you
311.
turn your mic up a little bit? You're a little quiet.
Yeah, so this is additional knowledge to have to understand what is being done in our society and why. And if you follow my research, I explained that it all boils down to Saturn. Saturn, the keeper of time, having to do with judgment, death, the powers that shouldn't be. Almost all of their coding comes back to Saturn. And when you look at their rituals again and again, from September 11th to the Boston Marathon bombing to whatever else you want to name, it all comes back to Saturn. So when you can start to recognize which dates are most relevant to this Saturn code, you can start to say, okay, this is a date we want to look out for. And, I don't know how to explain it more clearly than that. To understand things in this world, you need knowledge. And what I am sharing with you is real knowledge that is being used by this gang, that has been used all throughout history. And when you're aware of it, you can see through things in real time. It's like, did you catch the headline yesterday about the 93 World Trade Center bomber? 93 World Trade Center bomber mastermind that he supposedly died in prison yesterday. Right. Did you see this story?
Yeah, the headline I saw.
Specific reason that story came out on the 49th day of the year. And
Testing.
Yeah, that's better.
And Zach, I just want to make another point. It helps to thin the veil as well. We're actually, we're seeing what they use, and our minds are using it against them, because when we combine incidences to numbers, we know what to look for as well in the next false flags, right? We see 33s all over the place, and we see this and that, right? So it helps us thin the veil.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like
Hold on.
We're putting together.
So go ahead. I want to get
Can I just
Conchi
say
in here.
something?
Go ahead, Dominic.
You're talking about thinning the veil here, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, that can only be done with hindsight, in all honesty, because people make predictions all the time, and guess what? They get them wrong all the time. So if it were really encoded, every single event, you would be able to trace it. And so far, no one has been able to, have they?
Can I make a point on that? I think that one thing that they're doing, especially lately, is that they are seeing that people are becoming aware of these things that they have coded, they have planned. And it is very possible that they say, too many people know about this, we can't do this. So we've also got that to throw into the mix as well. Just because we see it doesn't mean they're gonna do it. They may say, look, everybody's talking about it. Let's do something different. Let's not do that. Whatever.
Yeah, but Amy, you've got to think, it's got to the point, a lot of conspiracy people or people involved in the conspiracy theories environment on YouTube are paranoid. For instance, look at your logo right now. Oh, it's the all-seeing eye. Oh, it's purple. Oh, it's Phoenician. Oh, she's a shill.
And it's Amaterasu Solar. It's the sun goddess.
Yeah,
sun
exactly.
goddess. Yes,
and look, for me, I've been called a shill because I've got a black and white animal, so I'm clearly Masonic. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
dear.
but this is where paranoia leads, isn't it? You see?
Well, I agree with you to that extent, that there is a lot of paranoia. However, what I'm trying to say here is that they are clearly using this system. I after watching Zach for several years and all the things that he's shown, whether predictive or in hindsight, it doesn't matter. The coincidences become the probability of the coincidences just gets astronomical for, any given event having 6 or 7 key elements all matching. It's like that can't happen on an organic level. I just can't believe that is an organic thing.
It starts getting in the realm of beyond what coincidence would allow in some cases.
Exactly. So we've established they use this, but we could also say that they are. It's not like they're paying us no attention. They're watching us
certainly
closely.
Certainly.
And if we catch on to something that they're going to do and start saying, hey, let us suppose they're going to do something or have planned something on the March 11th in Seattle. Let's just suppose that. All of a sudden, all these people are going, look, March 11th, Seattle, look, everything seems to be lining up. They seem to be saying this. And they go, oh, let's not do anything because we don't want to validate.
And then all of us out here calling it out look like idiots.
Exactly.
But there's absolutely no question that these people, these psychopaths, love their numbers. There's no question. The Bible is coded, the Talmud, the Torah. There's no question that there's coding, there's numerological coding. And in fact, Christine Lagarde, for Christ's sakes, came out recently last year and said, I want you all to think about the magic number 7.
I think that was a few years ago now, but you're right.
A few years ago,
so there's no question whatsoever that these guys love their numbers.
Now,
okay, with that, Conchi, your turn. Go ahead.
Okay, right. You want to hear about numbers? Earlier on, I don't know how familiar you guys are with the Madeleine McCann case.
I'm
fairly familiar with it. I watched a lot of Richard Hall's stuff on it.
Right, she's the little girl that went missing in Portugal, right? Half a mile away from Sigmund Freud's pedophile cousin's house.
Yeah, and Cliff Richard lived there as well, who's another knight.
The Podestas were supposed to be renting that house. They were in the area at that time.
The Beach of Light, Praia de Luz.
Okay.
Beach of Light. Well, it's recently come up again. I don't know if you want to do a search, but I found out the law officer or their legal department is called Elizabeth Duarte. And now this might be easier if I just do a quick screen
why don't you go ahead and do a screen share if you have something to show us, because I haven't been following this very closely lately. I've been busy with tons of other stuff, but go ahead. And then we're going to get back to the original.
Okay, have you got that? Am I screen sharing now? Because I'm on a different.
Yeah, you are now.
Okay, well, this was out today about Madeleine McCann. Now, bearing in mind, Jerry McCann had the current Prime Minister of Britain, Gordon Brown, on speed dial. Yeah, just a regular guy that happened to have the the then Prime Minister of Britain's phone number on speed dial. There they are. It's a very, very, very famous case here. The girl, she would be spotted so easily because she had a very, very, very unusual eye. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Very unusual eye, very pretty girl. There's the lawyer, Isabella Duarte. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. So let's have a look at her website. Bingo, there you go. Helios. Do you want to have a look at Zach? Have a look at her address. Everyone have a look at her address. Can you see that?
1901 First Ave.
And what's this?
Floor.
Because that's a zip code you have in America. We have, that just looks like foreign to me.
92101. That's a zip code.
I'm from San Diego, and that looks very familiar in its format.
That is a zip code, yes.
And that's her address. She's the
1901 92101. Okay.
And she's the lawyer for the McCanns. And the McCanns are tied in with the British royalty. They also met the Pope. I don't know if you knew about that. And I showed you the pictures of the inside of the
Wait. Did you just say the McCanns met the Pope?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Right.
I did not know that.
Okay,
What a
this
Twinkie.
Look,
yeah, what a-
not everybody gets to meet the fucking Pope.
That's true. That's very true.
I mean, I've been to the Vatican, and I was at St. Peter's Basilica
there they are.
on the Wednesday when the Pope does his Wednesday sermon. I was 10 feet from the guy. I could have hit him with a rock, but no, I didn't get to shake his hand and sit and have tea with him.
They're multimillionaires. They're both doctors. They're both, I think she's.
Oh, the McCanns are?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can't remember what this guy's name is, but they're all involved with the Blair government, which was involved with the Bush government, which was involved with the illegal bombing of how many countries?
All right, so the British government and the Pope, the Vatican. So we're talking about two pedophile groups.
Absolutely.
Right.
And
This
of
is
course,
a big
the British
cover-up.
government. The British government, which was a paedophile ring.
Zach,
traced.
have you looked into the McCanns? Have you done any gematria on the McCanns?
No, I'm looking at her. I'm looking at her name right now while we're talking about it. There are some interesting things, but I haven't done any research on this, so I'm just listening for now.
Okay, go ahead, Conchi. What else you got there?
Am I still screen sharing?
You are.
No.
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you got the Google Hangout.
Yeah,
screen share.
you're screen sharing on the Hangout is what you're. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
There
Sorry.
you go.
Right. Well, there's so much surrounding the symbolism of the Statue of Liberty, and when you look at pictures of, I don't know if you know about Helios.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's exactly the same, isn't it? And when you get close, I don't know if you noticed, but when you actually get close into the face, it's very sort of transgender.
Yes, it is.
You're right about that. It is
No,
trans.
it's not an obvious man or an obvious woman. It's sort of,
It's like Jesus. It's like Baphomet. They're hermaphrodites.
Who knows, man? I don't. Did you see the I won't mention it, with fellow man who's a bit of a fundamentalist Christian, and he was
I did see that comment, Fred. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. And I just thought, oh dear,
Yeah, so much for fellow man. I mean,
Yeah.
you're going to call yourself fellow man, and you're going to exclude everybody who's not a Christian.
So basically what you're saying, Tom, about this whole thing, it's a big cover-up then? Big pedophile cover-up from top to bottom?
It came out before this recent Pizzagate thing. I don't know exactly what's going on with the Pizzagate thing. I don't know how much of that is fake news, how much of it isn't, but we know for a fact that the elite, the psychopaths, they're into Satanism, and they are definitely into children.
Hey, Zach, one of the things I was hoping to get you to do during the live show is to give us a live demonstration of your skills in gematria. And since you have not looked into the McCanns, and you said you did, at least there for a moment, you were looking up something, you said you found something interesting. Why don't you go ahead and show us what it is? Just go ahead and do a quick, brief, gematria reading of the McCanns or the incident. You can take your time, you can screen share, you can look up stuff. Just give us a quick, your interpretation.
Sure, and I don't even know if I'll necessarily have an interpretation, because I got to do the work and see.
Take your time. We don't have a time limit here. You just do what you got to do, because I was really hoping to get you to do a little bit of live gematria right in front of us while we watched. And this is a good example, since you have not spent any time researching this particular incident. So you can give us the rundown on the names, the McCanns. You could also might want to look into Sigmund Freud or his brother Clement Freud, who happened to be had a house supposedly rented by the Podestas, John and Tony. I think they were supposed to be in town. It was in Portugal. I don't remember the date the girl went missing, but let's just do that. Spend a few minutes doing that and see what we come up with. I just want you to do that live.
Sure. So what stands out to me about her name, so often we see these people with the same initials in the media, the MMs, the RRs, the SSs.
He's right. You do.
Disproportionate when you pay attention to mainstream media, how often you get a person that has the same two initials.
LL.
And, what's that?
LL too.
Oh,
Sure.
you also remember Mason Wells, which was MW, wasn't it? Mason Wells. What happened to him?
W, that's another one they like, right? The M and W inverse of each other.
Yep.
So what stands out to her, because this is a missing person, right? A mystery.
Well, not only that, but because it was the way they'd left the child on her own. They'd left the children on their own, you see, and they'd gone off to have a few drinks. So they should have been blamed. And the Portuguese police that initially investigated them put them as prime suspects. They were absolute prime suspects. And Amy, you'll know about this because you've seen Richard Hall's investigative stuff. They had cadaver dogs in. They had cadaver dogs in, which are these dogs have never been wrong. They've been used by the police all over the world, by the FBI, CIA. They've been used. These dogs are spot on, and they both went positive for a dead body in the McCann's apartment and a dead body in the McCann's hire car. Now, another coincidence, yeah? These dogs have never been wrong, apart from the one occasion on the McCann case.
Right. It's sort of like 3 high-rise buildings fell from fires on being hit by 2 planes. It's the same sort of thing, right?
What did you think about the address of the lawyer for the McCanns as being 9/11?
911 in there. And
Yeah.
So what stood out to me about the address, can you say what the number was again? Was it 10901 or something?
One moment.
1901.
Right. So I heard you bring up the Vatican and the Gematria for the Society of Jesus, which is the Jesuit order, is 191. And this number shows up again and again with rituals involving the Pope and the Vatican. That address has that, 191 sequence within it. So I find that interesting. What stands out to me about the day she disappeared is she disappeared on May 3rd, which is the 123rd day of the year. May 3rd's the 123rd day. The word conspiracy equals 123. In addition to that,
in what though? In what? I mean, you haven't said. Is that in English ordinal? Is that in Jewish?
That's an English ordinal. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, up to Z is 26.
Yeah, Zach, please try to not skip that part. When you start saying that it equals this, it equals that, please keep in mind that those of us listening are wondering what system you're using. So keep that in mind.
So that's the English ordinal. That's A is 1, up to Z is 26. Conspiracy sums to 123, like 1, 2, 3. The day she disappeared, May 3rd, 2007, you can take the date numerology by going 5 plus 3 plus 20 plus 07, which sums to 35. That would break down to 8, but 35 is interesting. There's only been one Catholic president in the history of the United States. That was JFK, the 35th president. The word Catholic, using the alphabetic order, but reducing each letter to a single digit. The word Catholic equals 35. It was also May 3rd, which can be written 3/5, kind of like 35. So you brought up these points about how this family got to meet the Pope, which is something that very few people in this world get to do. I find it very interesting in light of that information that she disappeared on this date. Also, those initials, MM. M's the 13th letter. 13 in numerology is 1 plus 3 equals 4. So her initials are 1313 or 44. The number 44, all throughout history, as we talked about in the beginning, is connected to
assassinations.
Killing. The word kill, using the alphabetic order, K is the 9th letter, K is the 11th letter, I is the 9th, L's the 12th, L's the 12th, kill is 44. If you make it the small way, the word execution's 44. In the history of the Catholic Church, there was a 33-day pope. He died September 28th, right after the Jesuit order's birthday, which is September 27th. Many people suspect he was killed from arsenic. Arsenic's the 33rd element on the periodic table. Arsenic, using the alphabetic order with the reduction method, arsenic equals 33. The day the 33-day pope died was a date with 44 numerology. So my point is, in the history of the Catholic Church, there's some major mysteries connected to these numbers. I would have to do a lot more research on this girl, but just based on what you said about the Catholic Church connection and her date of disappearance, very interesting. On a related note, there's a new hit show on HBO. It's called The Young Pope, which happens to have the same gematria as Pope Francis. If you've seen that show, it also begins with a Pope
that's a
having
creepy
a dream.
freaking show. We talked about that one. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's okay. In that first episode, that Pope has a dream. It begins with this dream of him doing all these things that are kind of out there for the Catholic Church, but in reality, it's a lot of the things that this Pope has already done. Anyhow, what else I realize about this girl in regards to the Catholic Church is she was born on the 132nd day of the year, May 12th. She disappeared on the 123rd. Think about those numbers, 132, 123, re-scramblings of each other. Catholic Church, using the alphabetic order, A is 1 up to Z is 26, Catholic Church sums to 132. So here we have a girl born on the 132nd day of the year, disappear on the 123rd day, a day that had a lot of connections to Catholic. And, you know, I'm sure there's a whole lot more here, but just based on the small amount of information I have, to me, that's already pretty fascinating.
I agree.
Her father is absolutely probably a 32nd or 33rd degree Freemason for certain, as was Gordon Brown, as was all politicians in Britain are pretty much Freemasons.
There you go. And here, just to throw this out here, this is the part that you criticized in the beginning, and I understand. You said, well, sometimes you're using these other gematria methods. I just noticed that the way she spells her name, Madeline, maybe this is a popular spelling in the UK, but I used to teach, and Madeline was a really popular name in the mid-2000s. I crossed a lot of Madelines. I've never seen the spelling of Madeline this way. I've never seen Madeline spelled as it is for this girl. For anyone who can't see, the spelling is Madeline. I've never seen it that way. And what I notice is in Jewish gematria, there's a lot of things that are interesting about her name in gematria, but in Jewish gematria, her name sums to 119, 119, number corresponding with phrases such as all-seeing eye, Star of David, master plan, foundation, special number here, 119.
And what's that? Sorry, her name in what?
Jewish.
Her name, Jewish. Sums to 119.
Her name sums to 119 in Jewish gematria. Anybody can verify this right now by going to gematrinator.com. That's GEMATRINATOR. That calculator.
And so her lawyer, who's representing her from the, is living, her address is 119.
Yeah, the same. So you see that it's like beyond coincidences, right?
It can't be coincidence.
Let me ask you a question, Zach.
Can I give you one more real quick? Just one more.
Go ahead.
Vatican in reverse ordinal gematria, that's the alphabetic order backwards. Vatican is also 119. So seeing something here major with the Catholic Church.
All right, so let me ask you a question regarding...
We've only spent not even a half an hour just looking at this, and all of a sudden that number is just everywhere, right? So,
Ian, were you not familiar with the Madeleine McCann case?
No, I haven't. No, I just read a little bit.
We did bring it up.
10 years. It's been going for 10 years, literally.
We did a show several months ago on the Pizzagate, and I did bring up Madeleine McCann because she did go, like I said on the show and here, that she did go missing half a mile from Clement Freud house, who's cousin of Sigmund, who's a known pedophile. And the pedestrians were supposed to be in town, but from what I hear, they were renting that house. So I brought that up on the show. Maybe Ian forgot, but I guess he's just not familiar. But anyway, Zach, question I got for you regarding this Madeleine McCann having gone missing on 123. Do you think that literally, like I asked you earlier, do you think that there's someone or a group of someone who said, look, we need to, I don't know, abduct a child, we need to do it on this day, and these people with this name has to be the people because their name equals this, blah, blah, blah. Do you really think that that was pre-planned in such a way as to work out so the gematria turns out the way you just described?
I think that this is a real story. That's essentially exactly what happened, and I think that's exactly how this gang has operated all throughout history. Real quick, you just brought up the point about Pizzagate. I want to let you know that Pizzagate and fake news in reverse ordinal gematria, the alphabet backwards, both sum to 132. And I thought about the Catholic Church right away when I said that, because we know about the Catholic Church and pedophilia, and that's a major theme within Pizzagate. So when I saw that, I said, that's very interesting. Because what I had already pointed out when I did the Pizzagate research when that was happening, I didn't know about reverse ordinal gematria. That's the latest thing I've come across that I realized is a major piece I was missing. What I already had documented is fake news, alphabetic order forwards, sums to 84, just like the word Jesuit sums to 84, alphabetic order going forward. So I already saw that Catholic connection. Plus, you probably remember the story about the man who supposedly went to the pizza shop in Washington, D.C. and was carrying a gun. They said his name was, I can't think of his full name right now, but his full name using the English reduction method sums to 84, just like fake news, which they were already coding on that story heavily.
Go ahead, finish.
Oh, I was just saying, what you just connected with the Catholic Church kind of in Pizzagate, I'm saying the gematria backs it up.
Okay.
And anyway, back to you.
So you threw out the number 84 a few times. Have you heard of this 84 lumber
commercial?
Yeah, it was a Super Bowl commercial at 84 lumber.
I have, and before that commercial even played, I showed how 84 was going to be a huge number on the Super Bowl. The Falcons, their owner has the same birthday as the Jesuit order, which is September 27th. That's Arthur Blank. The Falcons are on the 84th meridian, Jesuit 84, United States of America, the small way, 84. Also, the Falcons have been in 2 Super Bowls now, Super Bowl 33 and Super Bowl 51, 33 plus 51, 84. Matt Ryan, their quarterback, went to the Jesuit college, Boston College. Tom Brady went to a Jesuit high school. And Robert Kraft, also a Jesuit, the owner of the Patriots. So, yeah, the Jesuit numbers were already on the Super Bowl. We had 2 Jesuit owners, a lot of symbolism in the numbers, and then we had that big controversial commercial with the 84 in it. So...
And that was odd because 84 Lumber is not the kind of company that's large enough to really be able to afford that kind of commercial spot.
Right.
So it was weird that they were even there, right?
Okay, okay. Can I just, in a moment?
Certainly. Jump in.
American football, yeah? Who founded it?
Freemasonry.
Do you know that for sure?
Yeah. Mr. Camp.
Not someone called C.C. Pyle? C.C. Pyle, never heard of him?
I don't think that's who's credited with creating American football.
I don't know, but he certainly was one of the founders of it, of the NFL.
So it sounds like another Mason
right there. Yeah, well, if you hear me out, just hear me out. I know that I looked into the American football because I don't watch it. It's of no interest to me, but I do watch football. And the Football Association, you don't have to be a great researcher just to Google it. It says on the WikiLeaks page that after 6 meetings in the local Freemasons Lodge, the Football Association was formed in 1890 something. So isn't it interesting that with the Romans, we always talk about the Romans and their divide and rule, and also their bread and circuses, which has morphed over the centuries into
football
and pizza.
It is.
Well, or football and food stamps.
Yes, it is absolutely bread and circus.
Yeah.
In the book 1984, it says all it took to rule over the people was beer, football, and gambling.
And there's that number again, 84, 1984.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he said, Orwell said that all he did was he reversed it. He wrote it in 1948 and just reversed it.
Well, I think that might have been an excuse rather than the real reason, because there's a lot of evidence to suggest that Orwell wasn't writing something to warn people. He was writing a blueprint.
Well, see, that goes back to what I said earlier about the collective conscious, because when you have so many people involved in thinking about a particular subject, then that's the lesser magic. It helps to make it come into manifestation.
Conceivably, but I think that there have been people that have been very deliberately working on that blueprint. with
Yes, there have. The
full
Tavistock Institute.
intent to make it
The
happen.
Tavistock Institute, which
Exactly.
Orwell was part of. Orwell was part of that, wasn't it?
All right,
Bertrand
you guys.
Russell.
Let's try to get a little bit back on topic here. The whole reason we set this thing up is because we wanted to get you two together, mainly because of the video that you put out, Dom. Zach, for obvious reasons, takes issue, and anybody wants to, go after him. Some of the things that you said in your video I agree with, and some of them I do not agree with. So let's go back to that video if you guys don't mind.
Please.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, Zach, one of the first things I want to throw at you is, in Dominic's video, he chose a video of yours to comment on, and in your video, you said that the English language was invented by Robert Wilkinson.
Right. Okay, so that is something I want to talk about, and I'm glad you're asking me that right after we talked about 1984. When I began this research, I was looking to see if what I had stumbled upon was coincidence. And I started thinking, well, if this isn't coincidence, it must have been purposefully built into the language. Who built the language? And I didn't know who had created English. So I began doing research. And this was in 2013. And at the time, there were a number of articles on the web, online publications about this man, Robert Wilkinson, this music composer who was credited with commonly being said to be the creator of the English language as we know it. And what's so fascinating is the majority of those articles about Robert Wilkinson, I cannot find those articles anymore. They seem to have been scrubbed from the internet. So, that's the most interesting part of his video. And I said, okay, I see why he's doing that, because admittedly, the same information that I read in 2013, the only article I can find left is from Snopes.com about Robert Wilkinson, and it's very short. So if you've ever read 1984, that book is about down the memory hole, getting rid of information, changing history in real time. And I feel like that's what's happened to me with this Robert Wilkinson, who I read an awful lot about in 2013.
All right. Well,
so I need to go to some old libraries and find some books, because he's got to still be in books. But that is where my initial information came from on Robert Wilkinson when I wrote about him in 2013.
Well, Wilkinson spelt in an odd way as well, right?
It's
spelt
with
with
a Y.
Y's instead of I's, yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, that's not odd about English at all, because a lot of English words had a Y.
I've never seen Wilkinson spelled like that, though.
Yeah.
Not here in the West.
Ian, have you seen Robert spelt like that, though? Sort of Robert the Bruce. Robert's a good English Scottish name, isn't it? Robert,
yeah.
Right.
Name. So, Zach,
real quick, before you get in your work,
Zach, I've studied English language. I've got advanced level studies in English language and in English literature. And I'd never heard of Robert Wilkinson. If you'd have said the Venerable Bean, then maybe you might have, he did do a lot for the English language, but Robert Wilkinson, I mean, he was born a bit too late to invent the English language, and no one invents a language because it's an eternally
it's a conglomeration of words from other languages.
Yeah, like hello is hello, German.
It's a formation of
English.
Compound words that are
a lot of Germanic
from other languages.
Because the English islands have been invaded by so many, from the Vikings to the Germans to the French to the other ones that invaded us. We've been invaded so many times and conquered so many times, and the Romans were here for 400 years.
Right. And if you look at Canadian language, it's like French. Like our neighbor is O-U-R as opposed to O-R.
And hold on a minute, I'll just say this to you, Zach. Some of the attacks that I have seen on you, I think they've been absolutely disgraceful. I really do. Some of the stuff that's been said about you, I just think that's disgraceful. But yeah, Robert Wilkinson did not invent the English language, and you'd be better off just to say, shit, I was wrong there, rather than trying to say he's been scrubbed from history, because that is just nonsense. And that's my opinion.
Can I say something on that?
Quickly.
Yeah,
go ahead,
just
Amy.
really quickly. I just want to say that it is conceivable that, I don't know who it was that decided what the proper way of spelling things are. You know,
It changes all the time, doesn't it, Amy?
Yeah,
The
it's
English
like,
language is very fluid. We get new entries in the Oxford English
All
Dictionary.
right, but go ahead. I want to get Zach's. He wanted to rebut that. So go ahead, Zach. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just want to say that the whole Robert Wilkinson thing isn't a crucial part of my research at all. It was something, I forget how you did in your video. Did you go back to an old blog post or an old video? But it was never a crucial part. And when I was presenting the information, I wasn't presenting it to mislead anyone. I was just presenting it from, this is what I had researched. You know, Robert Wilkinson, believed to be the original author of English.
All right,
And what I thought was so interesting.
Nonsense. That's utter nonsense, mate. Seriously, I don't know how you can even say that.
It could be completely incorrect, and I'm not concerned if it is, because it's not important to the overall discussion. But what I found so interesting at the time is that the way Robert Wilkinson was spelled with those two Y's, it had the same gematria as alphabetic order and the same gematria as the word gematria and the word English. So I thought, that's pretty interesting.
Okay, let me jump in. Not long ago, I had a comment thread conversation with our dear friend Bella, and for a long time, I was running on false information that I had learned somewhere, and I was convinced that it was correct, and that information has to do with the number 432 in relation to music as the tuning for the A note. Currently, we use the 440 A note, I was under the impression, based on what I had learned, that 432 was what all of the great composers had used to use. And I had a long conversation with Bella, and she basically proved to me that I was wrong. And under my own embarrassment, I admitted that I was wrong after researching on my own, not taking other people's word for it. And I admitted that I was wrong. And so I think what Conchi is trying to say, Zach, is that really there is no one person that could possibly be credited for creating any one language. So at this point,
I agree.
I
agree. And again, it's just like, so here's what I'd say back to Conchi. Look, you made a video calling me the shill of the year in 2016, which is a pretty amazing thing to say about me in the year 2016. Also to say that all my work was in hindsight, because in 2016, I will remind you.
But it is in hindsight, isn't it, Zach? Come on, it's in hindsight, all of your work.
No, none of my work's in hindsight, actually. Almost all of it has been projecting things to come that I've been right about.
And you've got things wrong as well.
I
but you would have got things wrong as well.
Hang on. One at a time, please. Go ahead, Zach.
Would have got things wrong as well. You make predictions, you'll get some right.
Of course. I've always said I'm not perfect, and I've been wrong, and not to take my word for it, to learn from me and use your own mind. I've always said that. So in 2016, let's just go over some of the small group of things I got perfectly right. And you know, a lot of these are sports, but realize we live in a world where the manpower is obsessed with these rigged, contrived sports leagues. It's as if it's the only thing that over half of the manpower in this world cares about. And I'm trying to wake people up so that we can change this world. There's a lot of people who found my work who said, you know what? I'm no longer invested in these sports. You know, I'm glad you woke me up. I see what you're saying. I want to be a part of the solution. So this is the point of my work. But in 2016, all of this I predicted way before it happened. I predicted who would be in the Super Bowl, Carolina Panthers, Broncos, why the Broncos would win, who would be the MVP, why there would be a Black Panther tribute, how that game was all about race war symbolism. I predicted that months before the Super Bowl even happened. It happened. USA Today made fun of me in the beginning of 2016 for that. Before the NBA season began, I explained why it would be the Warriors and Cavs again, but the Cavs would win. I further showed how the whole Cavalier thing was connected to the Brexit rigged outcome, which should be interesting to you over there. They're all synced up together. This is all part of the New World Order agenda.
Hold on. Did you call the Brexit? Did you? I
did not call Brexit, but so that was some hindsight work. But it's still important to show how all of this stuff is connected.
I agree, but I'm just saying you know that was a big one, and you didn't. Did you call Trump?
Well,
yes or no, mate? Did you call
look,
him?
In February
Come
of
on.
2016, I made a very specific video why it made the most sense for Donald Trump to be the next president. And in the middle of the video, while I was doing this, talking about why I was brainstorming, the lights turned on in my house. That's never happened since. So I should have just stuck with that. But the whole thing about Trump is I explained why it could be him, but I thought it was too ridiculous. I did show, though, how him being over there for the Brexit vote synced up perfectly with our election, and that could be another surprise. So
Zach, in that instance, the Gematria didn't help you predict.
No,
Trump.
that's not true. The Gematria the whole time showed me that there was a strong narrative for Trump, but my own intuition said that Trump was too ridiculous. If I had thrown out my own intuition and just followed what was being coded, it would have been obvious that it was Trump, and that's what I should have done.
And there we're back to hindsight again, aren't we?
But hold on. Look, I didn't say that I predicted everything perfectly. I'm showing you what I did, and it was something that nobody...
I know. I didn't look. I didn't say that you did predict everything. I haven't said that, and I've said that some of your work is good.
Hold on, let me finish.
Listen. Hold on. The main reason I made the video was because I thought, and I still do, that you were using Gematria as a cash cow, as a way to get views and therefore money. That was why I made that video. You did ask me why.
Who talks about truth to get views? I mean, most people don't care about the truth. It doesn't even make sense, honestly. So let me get back to what I'm saying. I predicted what the Super Bowl would be, who'd be the MVP, what the halftime show would be months before it even happened. I predicted what the NBA Finals would be, why, before the season even began. I said why the Cubs would win the World Series last year. I showed how it was connected to the election. And now that I'm aware of this reverse ordinal gematria, I know a whole lot more. But so I got all these sports things right. Not only that, I predicted Prince's death, and I showed what the relevance of Prince's death was, how it would connect to future things, which it did. Also, in 2014, I said why Muhammad Ali would die at age 74. This year, he died at age 74, and I showed why he died the day he did, June 3rd, very specific date. And you know, there's just so many other things. If you go back and watch my videos, the things that I'm pointing out in the story, I said, expect something like this soon, and the next thing you know, you got that news story. There was the thing with the 2 killing of the black young men, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile. They were both news stories on July 6th, 2016. I showed people how those stories were synced up with the bill called Blue Lives Matter, which is about militarizing police and protecting them from Black Lives Matter. I said in that video, July 6th, I said these are staged stories. This is part of a building narrative. We're probably going to see some sort of retaliation and then a further excuse for Black Lives Matter being a threat, more reason police need to militarize. Then lo and behold, the next day in Dallas, Texas, there was a Black Lives Matter protest, and supposedly officers were shot and killed. It was the greatest loss of life for police officers since September 11th. Do you remember this story from July 7th? Dallas, Texas, at the Black Lives Matter protest?
Oh, yeah.
So look at this.
Yeah, we had Dana W. on the show, and he made a complete embarrassment out of himself. And Dana W. has done some great work on Dallas, but go ahead.
Yeah, so that shooting came on 7/7. Police officer in Gematria, using the reduction, turning each letter to a single digit. Police officer is 77. Police is 33. Officers 44. Put it together. Police department 77. They said it was the worst loss of life since September 11th for a police department. If you write out September 11th, it sums to 77. Just like if you write out World Trade Center, it sums to 77, all in the English reduction method.
So are you saying you made those predictions?
I didn't say that it was going to happen the very next day, but you go back and watch my videos from July 6th. I said what these news stories were about and what we can expect. Because this is what's been going on. Those shootings that day came on a specific day. It synced up with the Gematria, Blue Lives Matter, plus a million other things. The point is, all throughout the year, I have decoded the propaganda and told people what they can expect. And time again, I've been right on point. I mean, if you just go read through my videos in the comments, it's a million times you'll see people write, you were right again, Zach. I can't believe this is happening today. I have shown people how to look at the news, how to look at the calendar, and what dates to expect the routine propaganda. Because when you decode by the numbers, you see how certain dates, certain numbers are used again and again.
Right. So I think now it's probably time to give Conchi a little bit of hell. In his video, he attacked you for wearing sunglasses. Conchi, I don't agree with that one. I think that was a little bit of a probably, and you did say, look, in all fairness, and I'm not making excuses, you did say you had a few drinks that night and you weren't going to initially make that video. And I mean, you made the video and you went after wearing sunglasses and you said, who else wears sunglasses? And who was it? What's that guy's name? I can't remember. Anybody help me out here?
I missed that. Sorry, what's that?
In your video, Conchi, you mentioned Zach Hubbard wearing sunglasses, which I'm just giving you a little bit of hell because I don't.
Kev Baker, the faker.
Kevin Baker, right.
Faker.
A person I'm not at all familiar with, but nevertheless, it was, I don't know if it was sort of the wrong, it was sort of a backhanded attack, and I just wanted to make that clear that you made some good points in your video, and you also got a few things that I thought were a little off.
I can be a little off at times.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So that the video in its entirety was not exactly on the level. You were attacking Zach in ways that were a little nonsensical, but some of the points you did make, and we've already covered some of it earlier in this conversation. We covered the idea that the idea of cherry picking and how, at least from someone who is not familiar with the whole system of Gematria, watching someone like Zach use one system and then use another and then use another, it can be seen as cherry picking in some senses, and fair enough, that is true. And although I'll admit that their coincidences are astounding, they're fucking remarkable. So there's that. All right. But one of the other things I wanted to bring up was let's see.
What you've got to bear in mind is, Aaron, and you as well, Zach, and everyone else listening, is I didn't ever shout out and say, for instance, oh, he's working for the CIA, he's an agent. I didn't say anything like that, did I?
No.
But what I'm getting to there is you've got to bear in mind they are out there. There are agents out there. We know this. The 77th
we've
Brigade,
talked about that at length on this show.
There are military outfits doing just that.
Online persona management.
Let me ask you a
and the
direct
77th Brigade, which is the latest, military unit of the British Army, which is purely about online psychological warfare. And we'll have seen it since the flat earth movement started, since all that divide and distraction and bullshit from the flat earth, that all came about almost within the same time as the 77th Brigade were formed.
True.
So go ahead, Zach. You said, let me ask you a direct question.
Yeah. So you put out a video calling me the shill of the year for 2016. And what I would say is I'm not aware of anyone in the world, living or breathing, who put out more important information in 2016 and showed what's really going on in this world. So, to call me the shill of the year is one thing, but what kind of research do you respect and appreciate? Like,
Zach, don't you see that that's quite egocentric to say that about yourself, that you're not aware of anyone else that did more than you? Don't you think that you should restrain your ego a little bit?
I'm not worried about the ego part. I said it because I think it's
you should be.
Who put out more important research in 2016? Who showed more about the world?
Richard D. Hall.
How? What did he do?
We don't know his work, so maybe you should get familiar with it.
Well, tell me, since you, in your judgment, I was the shill of the year, so I want to know what Richard D. Hall.
But you were shilling for yourself. No. I'm not saying you're shilling for an agency. I'm not saying you're shilling for the FBI or the CIA or anyone else. You are shilling for yourself. You are trying to make money for yourself.
How am I making any money? How am I trying to make money? See, that's a false accusation.
Didn't you have a donations page set up? Don't you have donations page set up?
No, I don't. I don't have any personal donations page. See, you're just repeating false information. And as far as I'm aware, you don't put your face on the screen. I put my face on the screen. See, this is what I deal with. I deal with people like you who make comments, but then cannot back them up and then just say false things. I haven't made any money. All I've done is lost money. I have lost a lot for doing this. I don't make any income off this. I have a master's degree. I used to make good money. In the 3 years I've been doing this absolutely for free, working my ass off, I could have been out collecting a salary. And the amount of money I've made in the time I have worked, I've made over 6 figures a year. So do the math. I could have made over $300,000.
So that immediately begs the question, how do you support yourself now?
Well, I've talked about that. I've said specifically what I do, and people who follow me know who follow my work, but I don't like to
I don't follow you, and I don't follow your work. So tell me, how do you support yourself?
Well, I'm not a law-abiding citizen, as I've explained, and I don't want to elaborate more on that. But
can I put in something?
That's fine.
I am going to say that I don't know anything for a fact, but what I have picked up seems to indicate that Zach supplies medicine that treats a very wide array of issues, including stress, glaucoma,
paranoia,
anxiety, anorexia, cancer, you know, and it's green and it's herbal and it's wonderful.
It helps with nausea and
helps with nausea. Yeah,
Okay.
it treats all kinds of things.
And
And
it's legal at one level, but illegal at another level. Is that the one?
pretty much, yes.
yes,
So you can be happy there enjoying your medicine, and then the next minute, within a couple of hours, you can be in a federal. Be arrested by a federal. Is it federal?
Yes,
agency?
but I cannot say that that is a fact. Okay,
All right.
I'm just saying that that is my impression. Okay.
I'm going to plead the fifth.
There you go.
There you go. All right. So, one of the things that Conchi brought up in his video is that the letters don't actually mean or equal a specific number, and we already touched upon this earlier before he joined in the chat, and it's basically because of the so many systems that are possible to be in use for Gematria. So I almost feel like rehashing an older question, but and it kind of goes back to the idea of cherry picking.
Hey, do you want to hear something really funny? I know who I'm going to be putting up for Scammer of 2017. Do you want to hear about the real big scam? This one's good. There's a guy, one of the flat earthers, who's put out, he's e-begging for £1 million.
Who's that?
Dear.
Straight up. Some dude called Wakey.
Oh, I've seen him around.
Yeah, you will have. He's you know, they all seem to float around together, don't they? But he's I haven't got around to doing a video yet, but he's put out a thing where he's if anyone's got £1 million who thinks the earth's flat, can you give me £1 million, please?
So I can make a video. Okay. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so that's, you know, and we're all seeing more and more of this in the truth movement, aren't we? We're all seeing more and more. Now, if I was going to monetize my channel, I'd try and make it a bit more sensational. I'd go for some bullshit, maybe throw in some Nephilim, you know, throw in some good whacked out shit, because people seem to like that, don't they?
Well, it's a great form of entertainment, but you know, Conchi, you did bring up a good point about the paranoia running rampant in the truth community. And we need to touch on this because Zach had a little controversy happen to him. He was out of town. A car ran into his house. A lot of people on the internet were calling it a staged event or faked event. And we should probably at least touch on that a little bit. And in relation to what you said about the paranoia, Russian Vids is one of the main people who saw the videos that Zach put up showing the damage. And Russian Vids, who I really don't like that guy very much. I think he's mostly disinfo, or at the very least, he gets a lot of shit wrong. He saw the video and he saw on the inside of some insulation that had the letter G. And he said, "Oh my God, that's all the proof I need. There's a G right there."
Yeah.
How fucking ridiculous.
Now that
Go
guy,
ahead.
interesting
Go ahead,
enough,
Zach. I know you want to pipe up. Go ahead.
Well, that guy's a moron, and that's just what I mean with conscientious objector. How do you make a video calling me the shill of the year when there's all these morons on YouTube?
It was. I've got to admit, it was a very tough choice. You weren't. It wasn't like you were head and. Don't think you were head and shoulders above, mate.
Because look, again, I don't care if you think it's ego or not, but I guarantee you, whoever this guy is, you named Richard D. Hall. I guarantee if we look at what he put out in 2016, it doesn't even hold a candle to what I put out.
And that's your opinion, Zach, isn't it?
That is
no, but Zach, that is just your opinion.
Just look at all of the work I put out. Look at the worth of the work. Who called the death of Prince? Who called the death of Muhammad Ali? Who called all the sports championships? Who showed how the entire election was rigged and structured day by day by the numbers? No one.
Didn't call Donald Trump?
You know what? Nobody had as many correct predictions in their lifetime as I had in 2016.
But you didn't call Donald Trump, did you?
These are facts.
But you didn't call Donald Trump.
As far as calling Donald Trump, I watched what went down with that, and Zach really did call Donald Trump, but then kind of backpedaled, thinking there's no way an orange Oompa Loompa is going to be actually put in. Well, he was wrong.
Remember Ronald Reagan?
That had nothing to do with the Gematria. It had to do with him thinking there's just no way.
Right.
So, I'm gonna say that just saying that he didn't call Donald Trump is not enough.
Okay, well, he didn't call the Brexit. He didn't. All the ones that he got wrong, Amy. Zach, what ones did he call
I do know
wrong?
that when he didn't call Brexit, what happened was he didn't know that there. I forget the term it was, but he didn't know that it was also being called something else. And when you ran the Gematria on that something else, if he had seen that before it happened, he would have called it the way it went down.
Hindsight again.
Well, it's not so much hindsight as not having the data initially.
There wasn't really much predictive programming or clues leading up to Brexit. Now, was there?
None
Well,
at all.
that movie that came out the day. Remember what movie came out the day of the vote? That was all part of the mocking.
I don't know.
The movie about the destruction in the United Kingdom with the world leaders. I can't think what the name of the movie.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
London Burning or London Down or something.
Something like that.
London Falling.
So anyway, Brexit. Look, with Brexit, I did not do my homework. It snuck up on me. But what I documented that day was the synchronicity between Donald Trump being there and how his name using the alphabetic order sums to 138. And it was exactly 138 days before the U.S. election. And I said, remember, they're saying this Brexit is a surprise. If Trump becomes president, that will be a surprise. It's all connected. This is how the New World Order, which is a Masonic world order, is operating. And that is what's important to take out of my work. I mean, I have said the whole time, my research is ongoing. I'm trying to understand something that's a secret to the masses. I said it's very clear there's something here. I've said from the beginning, this is just the tip of the iceberg. The more eyes, the more minds helping me with this knowledge, the further we're going to go. And here we are 3 years later, and we know a whole lot more. And
in fairness, Zach, you do have a great ability to connect a remarkable number of dots. And I would also like to remind people that how long has it been? 3 years, 4 years maybe that you've really been at this? You've not been doing it for 20 years, right? So it's
since the end of 2013. And then look, you just asked me about this Madeleine McCann, which is something I knew absolutely nothing about, but just hearing you talk for a couple minutes and the Catholic thing, I said, oh, I see some things right here right away. And I explained it to you in the simplest Gematria method where I began. I said it earlier when we were talking before our friend came on, that that's the method to know, because just with that, you can identify so much. The whole Catholic piece and that girl's disappearance. I mean, hey, for our British friend, didn't what I just showed you about Madeleine McCann, didn't that seem a little bit interesting to you?
Yes, it did seem a little bit interesting, but you don't need any gematria at all whatsoever to know that the McCann case is dodgy as anything, and it's all tied up with the elite of the system, and you don't need any gematria to gather that. It's just very clear and obvious. You've only got to do. So
why reject this knowledge? You made.
Now, hang on, Zach. Let me throw this in there. Hang on. what Dominic just said is a fair statement. You don't actually need Gematria to know that it's a dodgy situation. And in fairness to Zach, I would like to say that it is, in fact, it augments our understanding.
Right. It's additional knowledge, understanding. It's just like, and also when he says that comment, that's not true. Everybody in the world wouldn't feel that way. There's a lot of people who would just say, you know, oh, I don't know if it's dodgy. Maybe it's just another child that disappeared. It's just like how people look at September 11th and they say, oh, there's nothing suspicious there. The terrorists attacked us and this is how our government responded. So this research is to reach the people who refuse to see what is. You know, all the people who reject the truth about September 11th, this Gematria knowledge provides an undeniable layer of information in how long in advance that date was planned out.
But here we hit a barrier because you don't know the truth about 9/11. I don't know the truth about 9/11. No one here knows the truth about 9/11.
I think that I know the truth very well about 9/11. I think it's as clear as day.
Well, we certainly know some truths.
Yeah, there you go. But you don't know the whole truth, do you?
Well, you weren't here for everything that I showed in the beginning, but I think we know the most important points, such as who is responsible, who needs to be accountable, what agenda needs to be shut down. So beyond that, I don't know what's really all that more relevant.
So hold on, who was responsible?
The Zionists who run the New World Order, who run international government, who are warmongers, who practice Gematria, who do things by the numbers and have for a very long time.
Yeah, you just look at PNAC itself. That whole committee was predominantly Zionist Jews that ran that.
Exactly. So this is undeniable evidence. What our friend didn't hear is everything that I showed about 9/11 by the numbers. And
so you don't buy into the Judy Wood stuff?
I'm not sure about Judy Wood. I think her research is irrelevant compared to what I've showed. I mean, her research doesn't show.
Go ahead, Amy. Go ahead, Amy.
I just want to say something about the whole 9/11 thing. As far as Judy Wood goes, I have a lot of respect for her energy weapons analysis. I don't know what she said about who did this particular thing, but I think that what they've got us doing is arguing about whether it was energy weapons or whether it was thermite or whether it was mini nuke. And I'm going to tell you something. They used everything they had on that thing.
I agree.
Yes, there were energy weapons. Yes, there was thermite. Yes, there was a mini. I mean,
so
yes.
If one thing didn't work, another thing would work.
Exactly.
Just like the JFK assassination, when I showed you guys how Jackie basically shot him in the face and flipped the gun over his shoulder, they also had the snipers around the street to make sure that the job was done. I don't appreciate being interrupted every time I try to say something, conscientious objector. I'm just trying to state what I've seen already, that they had all these plays in motion. So if one didn't work, another definitely would have done it.
Well, let me throw this out there. Whoever is running this freaking world, they know full well that there's a percentage of the population that is not going to buy into the official story. In other words, a group of truthers, so to speak, right? They know full well that this population exists. They know full well how to play the entire population, including those who don't buy the official story. I think a lot of what they do is actually directed directly towards people like us to get us spinning our wheels, chasing our tails, arguing with each other.
Yes.
I agree. And that's what I saw in the truth community. I saw people fighting over things that were nonsensical. And I see a bunch of people who are looking for truth, but who are scared to say who is responsible. Like what you just said, whoever's responsible. It's not whoever's responsible. It's very clear who is responsible. It is the Zionist Jews. They control our media. They control world banking. They have a stranglehold on all of the major governments in this world. It is undeniable. And see, I understood that a long time ago. Then I learned about their little Kabbalah and Gematria. And I said, okay, these are Jewish practices. Let's see if they're coded into the propaganda. And that is where I began in 2013. And The rest is history. And for anyone to come along and dismiss my work or to discredit my work, to me, is done out of ignorance by people who have not taken the time to try and understand. My work shows who is responsible, why, what the agenda is, where we're going. And I've been very clear the whole time I've been here. So for everyone who continues to maintain this stance of I'm not sure who it is, it's just like, the reason you're not sure is because you're not taking the time to listen to who is responsible. It is very undeniable who is responsible for September 11th.
And like you said earlier, they had it on their own news showing the Israeli who was detained and said he was there to document the event.
Right. And then you look at things in Gematria, Star of David, 119. Oh, how do you write the date September 11th? 11/9. In Jewish Gematria, Tisha B'Av equals 911, the remembrance of the destruction of the two temples, and then we get the destruction of the two towers so that they can create this fictional Islamic boogeyman. Whose agenda does that serve? Oh, the Zionist Jews who are in the Middle East where they don't belong? It's not hard to see, people. And this is what disgusts me about the truth community. Everyone is too cowardly to call out who's responsible because the whole life they've been programmed to not speak against that group. You can't say anything about the Jewish people. That's anti-Semitic.
Right.
Bullshit.
Right. I agree.
You know who your enemy is the person is who you can't criticize, right?
That's right.
That's right.
Now, it does relate into a Nazi theology that's been carried on throughout the last 60 or so years as well. I mean, there is that aspect of it, but that's just the whole ideology of who's behind it all, right? Boogeyman they needed to create in Germany, fight against, right?
All right. No, you're right, Ian. Absolutely right. And we talked with Joseph Farrell for 3 hours, actually almost 4 hours, about the Nazis and their complete infiltration of literally all levels of all governments around the world, the creation of the European Union, the Bilderberg Group, et cetera, et cetera. So, Zach, something that I've thought about, and I have not been able to literally confirm, or just get your opinion on this, the term Nazi, N-A-Z-I, a lot of people forever have said that the ZI stands for socialism, not national socialism. And I have for quite a long time thought to myself that the ZI actually stands for Zionism. What do you think about that? And I guess I know you're going to answer the Zionist. Question is, who's running who? Is it the Nazis running the Zionists, or is it the Zionists running the Nazis? Because without a doubt, the Nazis have infiltrated, and so have the Zionists. Okay, let's not beat any bones here. The Zionists have absolutely infiltrated every level of every government as well.
I think that that really they have a small group that's both or neither, but pretending to be one or the other. You see what I'm saying? And they're calling the shots and making it look like, making it look like they're at each other's throats when in reality they're both serving the agenda.
Fair enough, and I would tend to agree.
They are the fake Jews. They're not the real Jews. They're the fake Jews, like's been warned to us already. The synagogue of Satan, right?
Right.
And the German Jews that were there were probably the ones that migrated over and started Israel with the Warburgs, the Rothschilds, and the likes, right?
Absolutely. Real quick about that, the synagogue of Satan. In Revelation, there's a letter written to the Church of Philadelphia, Revelation 3:7, and it's a letter about the false Jews known as the synagogue of Satan. And of course, Philadelphia is the original capital name of this nation. Philadelphia, using the alphabetic order in reverse, sums to 223. Of course, the number 322 people know about through Skull and Bones, the Masonic order. The synagogue of Satan, using the alphabetic order, sums to 223. So does the word Masonic in Jewish Gematria. 223, very significant number. They say the first published Bibles, the Gutenberg Bibles, the 42-line Bibles, the original credited publishing date is March 22nd, 1454, I think. Not sure on the year, but I know that the original credited publishing date, you can even go to Christianity.com, is March 22nd, a date written 22/3. And of course, the Bible as we know it concludes with Revelation and this warning about the false Jews ruling in the end times.
And the 322 is backward. The 223 is backwards 322, which is skull and bones. Because they turn everything upside down and backwards.
Right.
Like the cross.
Yes.
They turn the cross upside down and worship. Right.
And I think that's one reason why the reverse ordinal is proving to bring out so much, is because they do reverse things.
Well, they tend to spin everything around. Everything that's good is bad. Look at the American flags on the U.S. soldiers or even on a police officer. They spin the flag around and they give us a bullshit excuse to saying we're going forward into battle. And if you look on the opposite shoulder, there's nothing over there, or there's a patch that is totally reversible that doesn't mean anything if you flip it around. But for some reason, they got to put the flag on the right shoulder and it's fucking backwards, and their excuse is that we're going forward into battle. It's a bullshit excuse. They take the symbol of America, the symbol of freedom, they flip it around backwards. The Vatican takes, and they don't always have to flip it around or upside down. In fact, the Vatican, the Pope uses what's known as the bent cross, by the way, which is actually sacrilegious. If you know anything about this, the Pope walks around with this crucifix on the tip of his staff, and Christ is on this cross, and it's got this curvature bent fixture to it, and it's just completely sacrilegious.
It's satanic.
And Aaron, if I'm correct,
satanic.
where they stand on the podium at the Vatican, in the courtyard of the Vatican there, what's it called? Anyway, where they stand, that whole big structure from above is an upside down cross, and he's standing looking at an upside down cross as he's...
Oh, look at his fucking chair. Just look at the chair the Pope sits in. There's an upside down cross carved into the chair.
See, there's a lot of symbology in that, because the people are looking at him in the right-sided cross, facing the way the cross is.
And let's not.
But when he's facing the people, it's an upside-down cross that he's seeing. You see,
right?
So there is a lot of hidden symbology in that.
Let's not forget the Pope wears a yarmulke, so he's representing the Zionist Jews too, now, isn't he?
I agree.
Now, we all kind of agree that there's a different set of factions within the New World Order that are probably more than likely fighting for ultimate power. Do you agree with that, Zach?
Absolutely.
And there's like infighting going on and smearing and all the rest of it, right?
It's like it's like a couple of different mafias. As they approach getting closer and closer to total control, it really boils down to who's going to be the top man. And so that's why we're seeing the infighting.
It's just like us right now. We're a group that are all supposedly aligned for truth, but I mean, you know, there's a little bit of debate and fighting here, and people thinking they're more right than the other. And you know, I'm part of that, but I'm just saying, I mean, it's just human nature.
But you know what, Zach? To your testament, you're here. You're here now on this show. The reason we're doing this show is to bring people together, because honestly, the division has got to stop. For any positive change in this world to take place, the division has got to fucking stop.
Yes.
I agree. And, you know, it's hard. And I'll admit, in recent time, I've become more of a divider sometimes with my language. If you watch my first videos, I was always nice, kosher. I didn't cuss. I was respectful of everyone. But in the time I've been doing this, I've just taken on so many attacks. I've had a lot of negative things happen in my life. You know, I have become more negative as a person, admittedly. But, you know, I mean, it comes with the territory. It's like I have been trying to demonstrate the whole time I've been here that I'm here for the truth. I'm not here for money. I'm not here for subs, nothing. It's just about getting out knowledge to empower people so that we can take this world back. And in that time, I've had all these people make up all these slanders. Oh, he's just here for money and attention. It's like, how could anyone say that? My channel's never been monetized. I've never had any personal fundraisers. I just recently tried to raise money to build a website and start a movement so that we can organize online. And I did that. I got the website built. It's there. It's for everyone. And I have a little bit of money left over. I will not use any of that money for my personal expense. I'm using it to pay for the ongoing every 3-month hosting fees, which are expensive because I'm paying for, you know, souped up service so that we can have a lot of people there. And so far, only a little more than 1,000 have joined. So, you know, I'm just working hard to make something happen that I don't see happening in the world. And, you know, despite all that, I've created a army of people who hate me.
Well, to your testament, Zach, go ahead, Ian. Go ahead.
Everybody's got their own niche too. Everybody's got their own little thing. You can watch Snip 4. He's got his financial stuff. You can go over to another channel and he'll talk about doomsday weather. You know, everybody's got their own little niche that they focus on as well. So in order for somebody to cover all aspects of everything is kind of, you know, a lot to ask.
Yeah, we did talk about this a little bit off air before we went live, that if you're going to be the kind of person, for instance, like Dabu7, whatever you think of that guy, if you're going to be the kind of person who wants to do, you know, research or truth telling on a full-time basis, look, we all got bills to pay. And if you want to be a full-time researcher and video maker for the truth, you still got to have your bills paid. It's just because somebody monetizes their channel doesn't make them a shill.
Aaron,
Go ahead.
Aaron, but that's where the point comes of, if you are, so many people do that, but what they do is they, like Rob Skiba, they'll jump on a bandwagon, they'll go flat earth, like Michael Tellinger recently.
Oh,
Someone who
Yes.
I had a modicum of respect for.
I
suddenly
agree.
jumps on the flat earth bandwagon. Santos Bonucci.
Oh God, yeah.
He
yeah,
jumps
yeah.
on the flat earth bandwagon. Now
Yeah.
these are intelligent people, right? And you can't tell me that anyone that's got a critical mind and even the basic levels and understandings of science and the physical world, we know for a fact it's not, you know, we know for a fact it's not
Right.
flat.
Yeah, we
Right.
can
When-
prove it. It's provable.
Oh, it's absolutely, it's just beyond doubt. And you don't need NASA. Now, that's when I've always found an interesting, you know, I've come to the conclusion I do think NASA are partly behind the flat earth movement,
Well,
or there's some
actually,
way.
What
Go ahead,
I've
Amy.
heard, what I've heard is that somebody in NASA came up with the brilliant idea to see how many people they could get to believe in the flat Earth, and there recently, what's his name? I'm trying to remember his name. I'll remember it. But at any rate, he said that he could see that where it came out of the Pentagon. Now, it seems that what happened was somebody at NASA came up with the idea and they went to the Pentagon. Cliff High said it.
Webbot man.
And yes, Webbot Man. And he said that it came, the actual workings of it came out of the Pentagon, but it seems that the idea originated in NASA, and then they went to the Pentagon to get it rolling.
All right. On the subject of money and finances, and considering we have Zach Hubbard with us, who is here to obviously defend himself and his position in Gematria. Zach, to your credit, I would also like to say, like I was saying about Dabu7, if you're going to do this full time, if you're going to do something like what you're trying to do, to your credit, you're trying to create a website to bring people together, yes? Something that might rival YouTube, which, by the way, is an enormous fucking endeavor. Because YouTube, if you think about the amount of data required for YouTube to do what they do, that is an enormous fucking endeavor, okay? To your credit, it would very likely require some high-level IT people who probably are not going to be willing to volunteer weeks of their time, right? So you're going to have to pay some people to help get that website up. And you mentioned that the hosting of that website is an expensive proposition. So for you to ask for, you know, help financially to get that up and running is not out of the question. I don't consider you a shill for doing so, right? So as long as nobody feels slighted, that their money has been donated for no reason, that you're not doing anything with it, then I'm down with that. I'm cool with that. As long as you're doing what you're doing for that purpose. And on an additional note, I would say, I like the idea that you were trying to raise $33,000. I take issue with it because of the number 33. We all have an aversion to that number, right? But I see what you're doing. I like the idea that you're trying to use their numbers, their system against them.
Right.
So go ahead, take it from here.
Yeah, I got a lot of criticism for trying to raise $33,000, and I know that everyone who put out a video attacking that was disingenuous, because every single time I promoted it from the beginning, I said why we were going to do $33,000. At the time, when I started the campaign, I happened to have 33,000 YouTube subscribers. And I said, look, I'm at the magic number, 33. This is the number they use against us all the time. But I said, let's remember, these numbers, they don't belong to this gang. And I said, this number 33, it's not all bad. The word justice has gematria of 33, the word teacher, the word share. So I said, let's take 33 and let's make it positive. You know, we people, we have 33 vertebrae in our back. The word people, 33. The word person, 33. The word society, 33. The word order, 33. It doesn't have to be all bad. I said the people right now are using this word, you know, to make negative things. September 11th, Sandy Hook, the Boston Marathon bombing, all full of 33. But it doesn't have to be that way. So I said, let's take this number, let's use it to our advantage, and let's spread awareness about how this number has been used. But then let's say that's the ancient history. That's how the evil people used to do it. Now here we are, the people of the world. We're restoring justice. And I said that from the beginning. And, you know, a bunch of people who want to, that's what I hate too. So many of the people who make the videos about me, they say, well, Zach, he's a bad person because he's not a Christian, but I'm a Christian. And then they get into all their slanders.
Well, again, I think it is a good thing. And again, I have my issues. Like you said, a lot of people made those videos because you had that number 33. I think that's probably a knee-jerk reaction by most people because of that number, specifically the number 33. But I think it's a good thing. I think we need to take it back because they have taken our symbols, they've flipped them upside down, they've taken everything that we have that's good and they've turned it into something bad, and it's time that we take it back. So
I know about that symbol problem. You know, you pointed out at some point earlier about my my eye. Well, now I painted that eye. That is something I created, and I created it as the eye of consciousness, and it represents every conscious being. It does not represent somebody watching over everybody else. And in fact, the original graphic tiles to create the field of consciousness. It is a symbol of the universe in essence. And so, yeah, I took it back. That's my symbol. I painted it, and that's what it means.
And it's so true. Her symbol, when she was first became a member of All for Truth, she's part of the website and contributes a lot, one of our favorite members. The builder of the website, when she first began posting, he said, Zach, what do you think about this person and their symbol with the purple? He said, do you think this person might be trying to infiltrate? I said, oh, no, that person's not trying to infiltrate. I said, that's Amy. She's super helpful. But yeah, just the own builder of the website, when he saw her symbol, he thought right away, this might be some, you know, somebody up to no good.
That's where it leads to paranoia. Like everybody's just so paranoid now within the truth community. We don't know who to trust. Everything is fake. It's all just a show, and it's really, this is where the problems stem from, isn't it?
Well, that's what happens when you're lied to every day. I mean, this is what the powers that be have done to us.
And they're dividing us, yes.
And if you followed my work since the beginning, I've told people that my work's not meant to make people paranoid. It's not meant to make you decode your neighbor's name and go, oh my God, their number sums to this. It's meant to be used to decode the propaganda in the media, which is undeniably executed by the same repetitive numbers again and again. That's where I told people to use the study. I said, don't let this knowledge make you overly worried. And, you know, I recognize that people are too paranoid, and I am sure that my work has enhanced some people's paranoia, but it's not because of the way I presented it. It's just because some people are truly paranoid, and when they get information, they use it to, you know, make themselves worry more than they need to.
Prop up their paranoia. That's right.
Hey, Dom, what do you think about all this?
I think the truth movement, or well, we've all seen it. Any of us that have been involved with it for the last few years, we've seen it being destroyed pretty much from the inside out, haven't we? With endless disinformation, with lunacy, with just paranoia, people spewing out utter bullshit on a daily basis. You know, like your man Russian vids that you mentioned earlier.
Right.
10% information, 90% speculation, and 80% utter crap, isn't it? And
Yep.
that is par for the course now. Now, I don't even know what the main big truther channels are now, but they all seem to be connected. They all seem to be involved in a network where they all appear on each other's shows, patting each other's backs, and there's never any serious questioning going on. The comments are always on approval on their channels, for instance, and you're thinking, truther? You're a truther, and yet you're not showing any transparency at all, are you? So
Right.
it's pretty clear, whether we like it or not, that there are a lot of agents in amongst the big channels.
Yes.
And that's where the paranoia is created. They create their own.
Absolutely.
They create the paranoia by allowing us to know that there's online trolls, and just like Alex Jones, right? Like it's easy to find out that he's a gatekeeper just by watching him, right? And that's where paranoia starts.
Yeah. Well, I was taken.
He's making a lot of money as well.
I was taken in by Jones initially.
Jones has good information.
But after I got banned from ATS and tried to join his forum, and had absolutely no success in getting in, period, the end. Even after I found a phone number to call, left a message, still they would not let me in. And I know it has everything to do with my work, which may not be as important as Zach's work, but I'm trying to get us to walk away from the system entirely. Stop consenting to the way things are being done now, and consent to a better way of doing things.
Yeah, we had this conversation, didn't we? About
he would not let me in, and that's when I knew I was dealing with controlled opposition.
And that's why I also think that, even the so-called revolution, with Anonymous and people like this going out and smashing things up again, all you're doing really is pleading to the system. It's very much that.
Exactly.
Try and live outside of the system, create your own system.
Protesting it legitimizes the system. It legitimizes it.
Yeah,
that's right.
We love your system. Just change it a little bit.
Signing petitions says, "I accept your system. Please do this for me." It's like, no, just.
You know what, Amy? I did exactly that just the other day. It's almost time for me to get a new cell phone. It's starting to glitch on me, and I'm a couple of months behind on the upgrade date that I signed up for. So I stopped into the Sprint shop the other day just to see where I was on my contract. And the very first thing the woman asked me was, she wanted me to pull out my driver's license so that she could make a photocopy of it. And I was like, wait, what? What do you want? And she was like, come up with some bullshit excuse. Yeah, it was just, it's just a new policy. We need to verify, blah, blah, blah. I said, wait. You've been here. In fact, the first thing I said to her was, hi, Ruth, you're still here? So she recognized me. I recognized her. She knew me and I knew her. And the first thing I said to her was, wait a minute, let me get this straight. You know me, you know my face, you recognize me, and yet I'm supposed to now pull out my driver's license so you can make a photocopy and so you can verify who the fuck I am, just so I can inquire about where my contract is. And I gave her holy hell. And I was like, look, Ruth, I'm sorry you're on the receiving end. I know it's not your policy, and I had to apologize. I was like, and I was shaking my head, and I was like, look, man, this is fucking ridiculous. I was even dropping some F-bombs quietly. I wasn't causing a scene, but I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. And I'm sorry to put this on you, Ruth, but this is, and she was like, I understand. And she bypassed the system, and she gave me my answers. I didn't have to pull out my driver's license, so I did. I refused, and I was like, this is fucking nonsense. I should be able to walk into a cell phone company and inquire about my service without having to pull out my fucking driver's license and give a blood sample and a stool sample. This shit's getting out of control.
It is. It's totally ridiculous. And I just say, we can do better. My work is on my forum, and I describe a better way we can do things, because presently we've got two systems, the twin towers to psychopaths in power in place. The first because we're consenting to it, and the second because we don't have enough people working on free energy. We've got to get people working on the free energy, because when we can get that out, we can stop accounting for human energy, which is what money is.
Amy, we don't actually need free energy. We just need sustainable energy, which can be easily achieved. Free energy is like a holy grail. It's probably never going to be achieved.
We need free energy, and I'll tell you why. Because if you have to pay for energy, you need money. It needs to be free. And we are swimming in energy. We are swimming in an ether of energy that we have had the ability to extract from since at least the 1950s. I know that for a fact.
I told you when I visited the Tesla Museum in Croatia, where he was born, and they had a few demonstrations of some of his works, and that was unbelievable. It really was.
Oh, yeah.
Great place.
I wish I could have gone. I'd have loved it.
Yeah, it's impressive. It's really impressive. They set off the Tesla coil so you could hold the fluorescent lights, and it would just be giving off the light. But that's that's not actually free energy, is it?
All right, look, you guys, let's try to wrap this up. We got about 9 minutes to the end of our 3-hour mark. Where are we? Do we have a better understanding of each other? Yes or no?
Yeah, I guess. I haven't had, look, I made one video about Zach. I didn't attack him endlessly, and I won't be attacking him endlessly because I move on and I cover a lot of different people. And
would it be fair?
Some of the attacks that I have seen on him, I just think are just out of order.
Some of them are absolutely ad hominem and really ridiculous.
Yeah,
Dominic,
yeah.
Dominic, would it be fair to ask you to pull that video?
I was going to ask the same thing. Yeah. Since we've all come out here and he's even stuck his nose out to defend himself, we would appreciate if he did remove that video.
Yeah, I mean, the guy sat here for 3 hours. He gave us his best explanations. He did a little bit of live gematria. He showed his face. He made an appearance. I would call Zach Hubbard anything but a shill.
Well, here, I'll just add this. I don't care if you remove your video, because there's like 1,000 videos that say I'm a shill, so it hardly makes a difference. It's just the reason I wanted to talk to you, if you're not aware of this, is because I was, Amy sends me the link every week for your guys' show, and I listen when I can. And I heard you speaking, and I thought, I mostly agree with this guy. I find it interesting that he called me the shill of the year, and he's so opposed to my work.
I'm not so opposed to your work, Zach. I know that some of your work is spot on. I'm just saying that on occasion you cherry pick. On occasion you come across as being so far stuck up your own ass, it's unbelievable.
Very arrogant.
And on occasion,
I would recommend you keep your arrogance in check, buddy. And going forward, I would recommend that you keep that in check.
I will have to add an agreement on that. I love you dearly, Zach. I really do. But sometimes you can be horrifically arrogant.
Oh, yeah. And I always admit that. I've always said I'm an asshole, and I'm the reason I am the way I am for a reason. I mean, I've been speaking out since I was 18 when 9/11 happened, and pretty much what's happened because of that is I've lost a lot of faith in humanity. I've just seen how close people are up to the truth and how they dismiss things. So I just see myself. I don't see myself as something so great. I just see myself living in a land of morons, and that's
well, that's wrong. That's the wrong way. People, you're not living in a land of morons.
Can I put?
Look at the chat box. These people are smart. There are a lot of morons, but fair enough.
Let me say something to that.
Go ahead, Amy.
Okay, we've got to take into account that we are living amongst people who, from birth, have been indoctrinated, propagandized, and lied to. And people build what is called a quality world, which is how they think things are in perfect, the perfect understanding. In essence, yes, an illusion. Oftentimes, not always. Sometimes it's very down and in touch. But the fact is that we're dealing with people that really, it's very difficult to shatter your quality world. And More and more people are getting their quality world shattered and managing to pull things together with a different perspective. But there's still, yes, a great number of people whose quality worlds they're just not going to let go of, and they don't want, my sister is a perfect example. Don't give me any data. My world's already set. I don't want to know anything that's outside of what I know. It's there it is. Don't give me real information. I don't want it. So yeah, it's part of being human, and it's part of something that they play upon to keep their illusion going.
They have to.
So we have to, reach out with our heart and understand that, sooner or later there's a good probability that they will get over it, but it may be later.
$1 trillion goes a long way, hon. We're up against a monster. And I've mentioned before that my mom was one of those, and she is now awake, and it's because of, stuff that I've exposed her to. So it's
people, even the so-called morons or the sheeple or whatever derogatory term that truthers now use to describe people that they should be trying to wake up, I'm sure that's a fucking psyop in itself, that we call people sheeple, and that's wrong, because people aren't dumb, people aren't morons. The majority of people, like Amy just said, they've just been indoctrinated programmed from birth, like the majority of us. And some of us have broken that programming, and some of us haven't, but they're not morons just because they haven't, are they? Think about it. You're alienating yourselves from people that you want to join you, aren't you?
Yes.
Well, a lot of it's based on fear as well. People are afraid to speak out because they think they'll be called a conspiracy theorist,
tinfoil hat, lunatic.
They'll lose friends. Their
Flat
family
earther.
members will become mad at them. Like, we've all been through this, right? So a lot of people are just afraid to get out of their comfort zone. Most people, I would probably imagine, are pretty fully awake. They realize there's something ruling the world, and there's something behind the scenes controlling everything, right?
What was the voter turnout at the US elections? What was the actual voter turnout at the last US elections?
Well, who knows for real? Because
Exactly.
they tell us who
It
won.
depends what
They
news
tell
you
us
watch.
how many people voted. They tell us, we don't know.
It's purely a staged puppet show. Purely.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I do not vote because I will not register to vote, because when you register something, you are giving it to the king, state, rulers, whatever.
Yeah.
In exchange for a privilege. And when you register to vote, you are giving your sovereignty, yourself, to the state in exchange for the privilege of wasting time in a booth.
And at school, I don't know if it's the same in America, but in England, every single child in the morning has to register. Registration is taken every single morning. Is that the same in America?
Well, they took attendance when I was in school, but they never brought up registration.
It's called registration here, but then we're the original prison planet, aren't we?
Well, yes.
So we got like 3 minutes left here. Any last thoughts from anybody about?
We were going to discuss the whole PK situation, which is very interesting.
Yeah, actually, we started a few minutes late, and we could go a few minutes over the 3 hour or the 3 o'clock mark if anybody if anybody wants to. And before we do, I think it might be important at this point to bring up our resident troll, Michael Resnicki, who has been crying in the chat box this whole way through. And just a moment ago, he said we're all pathetic because we won't talk about the Chattanooga bus crash.
Still?
So just so you know, that person is truly employed. See, this is how you know I'm not a shield. People are truly employed and paid for to follow me and harass me at all times. This is one of those people. This man is paid to truly follow me around everywhere I am and just troll everywhere that I go.
It's not just you, hon, because he comes into many of my comment threads and starts trolling me too. He's paid to troll.
Yeah, you know how sad Michael Resnicki is? he goes on to a video that we're truth bombing, like say a mainstream media video that we're truth bombing, and he goes on there and starts slandering people on a truth bomb video.
Yeah,
Yes.
no kidding.
Yes, he came on and
That's how
started
sad that
calling
is.
me a shill on I forget which vid it was, but it was one that I truth bombed, and it's like, she's a shill, and I'm like, yeah, right, okay. It's like I try mostly to ignore the man.
Hey, I've had videos made about me, calling me a shill.
Well, I expect to see our name on his videos soon, because he doesn't sound very happy with what we have going on here. And all we're trying to do is bring people together for better understanding. I brought Zach on to give him a fair chance to explain his position, to talk to Conchi. We have everybody on. Everybody made an appearance, and I don't really honestly know what else to do. I'm just a human being. I'm just a regular guy. I'm not on the payroll. I'm out here as a force to be, you know.
Are on the payroll. I've seen you make the E7 sign of the devil when you
hey, what's the Gematria on my name?
Your stairway to heaven. I know you.
What's
mate.
the Gematria on Rufus Cat?
I got your number.
Hang on, I can run that through.
Does Rufus Cat equal shill? I mean, does it?
Yeah. Rufus Cat.
Is Rufus Cat the same as Aleister Crowley in Jewish Gematria?
English reduction is the same as perfect. We'll just stick with that.
Awesome. 37.
You can shut up with your all-seeing eye Lucifer avatar, and look at you with your pyramid avatar.
Hey, listen, Mr. Black and White. I don't know why you're talking right now.
I kind of want to hear about this PK part. I have something to add on PK, but I want to listen to what you guys were going to say.
Interestingly enough, PK used to comment on my channel when I used to put geoengineering stuff up about 6 years ago. So I've known PK for a long time. So this is why it's interesting.
I've known PK for a long time. I used to watch virtually every video he put out on Boston. I thought his work was pretty well impeccable on Boston. And then after a while, he put out a video, and I think it was in Greece, or Turkey, maybe. There was a protest. It was on the street. People were ranting and raving. Somebody grabs a baby out of the arms of a woman, holds it up, and is ranting and chanting. And PK puts out a video, and he says, look, the baby is fake. I left a comment on PK's channel. I said, wait a minute. I watched this video like 15 times in a row, played it in slow motion. It really looked to me like the baby's foot moved. It looks like its arm twitched. I don't think it's fake. Next thing I know, PK is calling me the C word. He's saying, fuck you, shill. He's just unleashed a barrage of beratement on me.
How dare you question him?
How dare I question PK? And from then on, I pretty much stopped watching his videos. But for the record, Amy has made contact with PK, and we expect to have him on the show soon. So there's that. Even though I disagree with PK, I expect to be talking to him soon. That's what we're about. We're bringing people together. We're not about dividing. That's what we're doing here. We're bringing people together. So there.
So you're going to get Patricia Steer and the Potato Posse on then?
No, I don't really want to.
You know what? I would have Patricia Steer on this show, and I would show her how fucking retarded she is, because I could shoot down every single argument that chick can bring up. Okay, so there.
Yeah, there you go, Aaron. If you think I've been anyway harsh on Zach, just watch my videos on Patricia Steer and the Flat Earth Parade. Yeah, that puts it into perspective, I think.
All right, so back to the original question, Dom. What do you think? You want to pull that video, or you want to leave it up? Zach doesn't seem to care. It's up to you.
I'll think about it. I'll give it a consideration, but then I'd have to do another one, wouldn't I? My second choice would have been that guy Nicholson 1964, but
that's a good one. That's a good one to do.
I had a very interesting conversation with him.
Well, he's one of those very religious fellas, isn't he?
Is he really? I mean,
I saw.
He is.
He's so Christian. He's a Satanist. Is he one of them? He's so Christian that he's sort of he's gone the other side. You know.
Ron Johnson had his own little podcast going on these days, and he had Nicholson 1968 on there, and it was just so religious. based that I literally went to both channels and unsubbed. That's how bad it was. And I don't normally run off and unsub from somebody just because they say something that I disagree with. Okay, all right. I don't always agree with everything Zach does, but we got him on here and gave him a chance to explain himself, answer his questions, and he hung out the whole time. And we did this in a very adult and a respectful and intelligent way. And I applaud everyone for joining, and thanks for that.
Welcome. I'd like to, if you're done talking about PK, I'd like to add something about the whole PK story.
Yeah, go ahead. We don't have a time limit. We can go over a little bit if you want to. Go ahead.
So PK, you know, I thought PK was doing the Boston work before I even had a YouTube channel, and I was saying, good for this guy. He's exposing the obvious as somebody needs to do. And when I started making YouTube videos, he was one of the first people I reached out to. And I said, hey, man, have you seen any of my videos? Are you familiar with this Gematria work? And he responded to F off, cunt. And I thought, what? Like,
right.
Okay. So as more time went on and I did more work, I tried to check in with him again. I said, hey, man, have you had a chance to check out any of my work? It ties in with the things you're trying to expose. And then the same thing, F off, cunt. And I thought, what's with this guy? So anyway, let's just talk about what recently happened to him. He was exposing a false flag, and yes, it was. It took place on January 20th, 2017.
The Melbourne.
We've had so many of these fake stories of cars crashing into crowds of people. It's like they got tired of all the fake shootings, so now they have cars crashing into the people. So the date that
can I just stop you there a minute? Yeah, have you not stopped and thought about why they are going to be, why they have been doing, why we've been seeing these, not false flags, they're not false flags, just hoax events.
A hoax can be a false flag. A false flag is supposed to have a psychological impact. So
people die in a false flag, don't they? People die in a false flag.
No, well, hang on. Please. Let me jump in. I just want to clarify. A false flag is when someone else is blamed for something that happened. Okay,
and
let's be very clear. There's a hoax event.
A patsy.
A false flag is when you pull off a hoax event and blame someone else for it. Okay.
People died on 9/11, didn't they? It was a false flag.
Well, a false flag goes all the way back to the pirate days where they used to raise false flags, literally, because they used to call it hoist the colors.
It goes further than that. It goes
to identify who you were.
Aaron, it actually goes back to the Greeks. They were the first ones to use false flags.
They'd raise a flag and think it was their enemy.
It has to do with raising armies would carry flags so that you knew who the fuck they were. Ships on the ocean had flags so you knew who they were, who they represented. And sometimes the pirates would raise a flag on someone else's flag, and that's where the term comes from. So go ahead. We have false flags, which entirely is designed to blame someone else, and then we have hoaxed events. So go ahead.
And then we have, I mean, I call them all psyops because irrespective of the elements within them, they are psychological operations.
So anyway, there has been a trend, has there not, in the last year or so for vehicles to be involved.
Yes, and knives, but go ahead.
But a lot of vehicles, cars, vans, maybe there'll be a tank. Wasn't there a tank? Someone went nuts with a tank. I think that this is in some way tied in for prepping us all for automated cars.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree. Get us out of our car. Yeah, that's right.
I think that's absolutely the subliminal programming there, preparation. Real quick on Gematria, English alphabet reduction, false flag, sums to 33, just like pirate. False flag, pirates. Anyhow, we'll just go with the term psyop, a psychological operations meant to have a mental impact. The media always programming negativity. Here's another story of needless death. Anyhow, this story, it took place January 20th, 2017, which was Inauguration Day in the United States. It was the 58th inauguration ever. They hired the 58-year-old Steve Ray to do the ceremonies. It was also a date with 58 numerology, special number, English reduction, Freemasonry 58, Secret Society 58. Little side note, this doesn't connect in, but PK's favorite word, cunt, using the alphabetic order, also has Gematria 58. So anyway, the story
Interesting word. It was, in actual fact, there's a lot of the English term, it would have been used This isn't 100% verified, but this is in a lot of English literature. It would have been used as a term of respect to a woman, to a strong woman. Like Boudica would have been seen as being a good cunt, a strong
Interesting
woman.
how things change with time.
Yep.
So anyhow, PK called 10 days later. PK got flack for calling the Royal Melbourne Hospital on January 30th, 2017. Now, again, sometimes with these numbers, there are natural occurrences. January 30th, 2017 was a date with 68 in the numerology before you break it down. Interestingly enough, the hospital name, Royal Melbourne, using the reduction method, sums to 68 like the date PK called. Now, here's where it gets interesting. PK got the flack for accusing that this little girl who had supposedly died named Natalie Hackin, he was trying to get to the bottom of if this person existed. What's so interesting is the name Natalie Hackin in the English reduction method sums to 51, just like the word conspiracy. In English ordinal, the name Natalie Hackin sums to 105. And with regards to 105, Royal Melbourne Hospital in English reduction also sums to 105. If you look at the history of hospitals in this world, it really does come back to Freemasonry as well. Masonry and Zionism both happen to sum to 105. That's another thing. But what I notice is how this supposed girl's name has the same gematria as the hospital. And further, the attention that PK got for calling the hospital, the date synced up with the hospital name as well. And I'm not going to say
all in the same system. All in the same system.
So we used the two interrelated systems there. We used A to Z, 1 to 26. We used that system, and we used the system where we make each letter a single digit. Those are the two base primary methods that are so important to know. That's the backbone of this research. Almost all of the work comes back to those two methods. So what's fascinating is PK's call worked out perfectly in numbers to sync up with this hospital, and he was calling about this girl who had the same name gematria as the hospital. This story from the beginning looked like another psyop. We'll use that terminology. What I don't know about PK, because I don't know him at all, is I don't know what his real motives for being online are. I didn't follow his channel at all because of how he interacted with me when I just asked him simple questions if he could help or expand on this research. I totally tuned out PK, so I haven't paid attention to him since 2013 or 2014. But I did hear about this story, and I thought it was interesting because just weeks before this, we heard about the other YouTuber, another person I never followed, Justin Woolley, an interesting name.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that was interesting.
Justin Woolley.
He lives in my town, by the way. He lives 45 minutes from me.
So I just thought that was so interesting that within about a month's time, we get these two stories about these YouTube channels.
Oh, yeah. The truthers are under attack. Let me jump in real quick. Brian Hill, who is a friend of ours, a friend of the show, he's been on the panel. He just said in the chat box that PK's ex-wife, Sharon Kathleen Kuzner, works for Royal Melbourne Hospital. He thinks he called her.
It's very possible. And I don't want to come out and say he's a shill because I don't know. I don't have the evidence. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if he was. And all the time he's been here, I have a feeling that a lot of the truthers online, we might start seeing more of these stories. You know, them making a mistake and then the media demonizing them. All is a way of eventually censoring us all, saying, see, these truthers online, they're out of control. They're causing real problems in people's life. They all need to be stopped.
Is Brian in the chat now, Aaron?
He is.
Say hello. Hello, Brian.
He heard you. He just typed that a couple of seconds ago.
Because what I was going to mention was the last video that Brian's put out was pretty good, pretty revealing. You need to watch that.
In fact, Brian Hill deserves a lot more subs. He's actually he's hot on the case of this PK Melbourne thing and the intervention order. He just recently put out a pretty good video where he basically faked Brian Hill, photocopied or photoshopped his own intervention order and retyped, the name of the complainant and all other stuff. So Brian Hill, in my opinion, he deserves a hell of a lot more subs. So anybody listening, hop on over to Brian's channel, check out his work, give him a sub. And so there you go, Brian, got a little love. Thanks for your contribution. PK says his sister works for a law firm. Give me a break, he just said.
No, I don't think, you see, that's the other bit of information.
So PK says his sister works for a law firm. That's what Brian just said.
But does PK say what she does at the law firm? Because you can work at a law firm, but you can just be admin, or you can be data filing, or you can be a solicitor or a lawyer, can't you?
Yep.
Well, I don't know. It's just sort of adds to the pile of information we all have to discern from.
That comes back to what you said about 10 minutes ago, Aaron, where we're going to have to get them on, and we're going to have to, you know, do exactly what we're doing right here.
Yeah, fucking A. Just because I disagree with somebody doesn't mean I won't have them on the show.
We're open-minded enough that we'll, you know, we look at the other people's arguments and make our own discernment from that point, right?
We're not here to preach to the choir and get pats on the back from everybody who agrees with us. I'm here for the truth, and I'm here to talk to people who have opposing views. That's the only way to get the real truth, is to have a truly open mind and pay attention to those views that don't always agree with you.
Take the rough with the smooth.
I mean,
well, I've never seen our chat this active before, so it's been a real pleasure today seeing the chat moving along at a quick pace. Had on a show as well, so.
All right, well, we're 15 minutes past our 3-hour mark. You guys, I want to thank everyone in the chat box. Thanks for your contributions. Thanks for tuning in. Especially thanks for Conscientious Objector for making an appearance. Thank you so much, Zach, for spending 3 hours with us. And with that, you guys.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks everybody in the chat. Thanks, Dom, as well, for being here. Fortunately, you couldn't get here earlier. We had to kind of rehearse speaking about the first hour. But Zach, I've been a big fan, and I really appreciate you coming by. Hopefully, we can have you on here again. If you're up for that, that'd be great.
Sure. Maybe when I'm done with my book, that'll be a good time. I'm trying to finish this book. Hey, real quick, I want to send something to Conscientious Objector. The last time he was on with you, I was listening, and he said something that a lot of truthers say that is false because it's been said so many times and people haven't fact-checked it. It's not true that the Madrid train bombing happened 911 days after September 11th. You see people regurgitate that fact all the time. It is not true.
Madrid
or false.
London?
From September 11th.
Wait. You mean the London bombing? The train bombing?
The train bombing was 912 days after, which means that there were 911 days in between. And people say that all the time, that it's exactly 911 days after, and it's false. It's 912 days after.
You meant the London bombing.
Days in between. And I know for a fact that that's true. So please, I'm just sending that to you so you're not regurgitating a lie, because with my work, I always try to be deadly accurate. I'm talking about numbers. I need to be precise, be on point. And I try to give people no reason to discredit me or say that I'm making stuff up. So I know that that's a fact. It's actually 912 days after. You could say 911 days in between. So I just wanted to pass that nugget along because I know a lot of people repeat it and it's false. And I heard the man who called me the shill of the year saying it. So I thought I'd help him out.
Well, right, did you Madrid or London?
Yeah.
Madrid, March 11th, the first terror attack after 9/11.
Well, I didn't mean that. I meant the 7/7 attacks in London.
Oh, well, that's definitely not 911 days after.
All right, well, let me throw this at you, Zach. Tim Power in the chat box just said, I'd love to see Zach break down how Freemasonry and Bacon, a.k.a. Shakespeare, used Gematria to completely misguide religions today and cause so much God hatred and division. He would have a field day. So maybe that's something you can work on in the future or whatever. But I wanted to throw that at you because that was from Tim Power.
He wants me to take apart the King James Bible. You guys know about
Cerebra Sana's in the chat. Hi, Cerebra.
Hey, Cerebra.
So she said Madrid Atocha or London 7/7. She was trying to clarify as we were as well. So
yeah, Madrid 3/11.
Yeah, it looks like Amy was talking with Cerebra Sana. It looks like we might have her on this Friday's show. So hi, Cerebra. Good to
Yes,
see
yes,
you.
I believe that we have solidified those plans. She will be here
Excellent.
at least for an hour or two. We don't
Excellent,
know exactly how long she'll be on, but should be give her at least an hour.
Excellent,
And
excellent. Looking forward to it.
It's Spudgy Pang that's doing a lot of the stuff on the 311 for Seattle.
He's been doing that for like almost 2 years.
Yep.
Just
Yeah.
remember.
Oh. Go ahead, Zach.
The firms that built the World Trade Center are from Seattle. Magnuson Klemenkic Associates. We talked about them earlier. They're from Seattle on the 47th parallel.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
3/11, March 11th, that was the date the tribute in light began. It's been a day of tragedy. Madrid, the Fukushima. Plus, if you go through the history book and just look at March 11th, that's been a big date in history. So I won't be surprised at all if we have some big headlines March 11th. We typically do.
Well, it's close to Ishtar, isn't it?
Say that again?
It's close to the Ishtar ceremonies, Easter ceremonies,
Right.
isn't it?
Right. Which is also relevant.
Uh-huh.
Hey guys, well,
Shit, there was something else I wanted to say, but I was listening and reading, and it just left my brain, and so.
9/11, Masons. That's probably
I just want to say thank you to everybody that was in the chat as well. And I am so appreciative that the both of you, Zach and Dom, have come to our show and offered your perspectives. I think that it has been an absolutely wonderful discussion.
Agreed. Thank you guys both.
agreed.
great stuff. Brilliant.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Well,
Okay.
on that note,
Ian, you want to go ahead and do the screen share? Are you ready to go?
so ends another episode of Conspiracy or Not. Here we come. Thanks everybody again for joining us this week.
Yeah, no doubt. Thank you all. We've had a
See
lot
y'all
of our.
next Friday at our normal time, 7 o'clock Eastern. I'm not sure if it'll be on my channel or Aaron's. More than likely mine. We alternate each time. So
Yeah, it's going to be Ian's turn to host next week since I'm hosting this one right here. It's a supplemental show, so more than likely it'll be on Ian's channel. Looks like we've got Cerebra Sana scheduled for next Friday, and with that, thanks everybody. Thanks for being in the chat. Thanks for your contributions. Thanks for watching. Again, thank you, Zach. Thank you, Dom. Thanks everybody. Go ahead, Ian. We're good to go. Thanks, guys. Love you all.
Thank you.